Okay, I assume it's recording, and then I can pause it. Yeah, this is the only thing I haven't started yet. So, okay. I need to do like a clap for Keaton. So I can do a lot. Okay. I don't know how to start this one. What's up, guys?
I've got the same energy.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
like it's
no.
hard. It's hard. Okay, I gotta load it up. My girlfriend is doing some beauty thing. Okay, so I'm gonna clap for Keaton, and then I'm gonna go. That was a good one. Okay. What's up, guys? This is the first time ever we're doing a podcast without Keaton, and it was a pretty tough thing to say that WhatsApp thing. I don't know what Keaton starts it, but I think we're okay. I don't know if we are, but I think we are. And I'm here with Will.
Roll with it.
Yeah, I'm here with Will.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, it feels weird because usually at this point Keenan asks me something stupid, and then I drone on for way too long, and we don't play the intro, and he doesn't find it. Luckily, I'm much better at that, so I can just roll the intro right here.
Nitro is the glory, but e-buggy pays the bills. Welcome to the No Name RC podcast. Get ready for some serious bench racing. But be warned, we speak our minds, express our thoughts, and sometimes things can get a little rowdy.
Hate, and he just was influenced by the hate coming from the left, the hate coming from the right. And let's get back to more club racing and less of this racing.
It's hard not to be arrogant when you're always right.
See what I mean? That's exactly why people call you arrogant, Max.
You may not agree with everything we say, but it's definitely worth a listen.
And our pick, can you stop whatever you're doing?
Join your host, Lefty the Great, with co-hosts and guests as they get together to chat RC.
Hey, after that race that I watched this morning, I have to talk about it.
Here we go. $100 right here, $100 throw. Oh no! I like this.
All right. How's it going, everybody? I think that's what Keenan says every time. It's show 303. I'm here with Will. Although I said I find the intro faster, this is my first time doing the sponsors and all of our other shoutouts. So, you know, don't drop our sponsorship if I fuck this up. So we're here with Will. We're gonna talk about Masters Dirt. You was there in America. Yeah, you're back home now. You had fun?
I had a lot of fun. Definitely a memorable one.
Well, that's good. Okay. Obviously, before we get going, we got to pay some bills, as the man himself says. Thank you to the main sponsor of the podcast, Invisible Speed. Thank you to our long-time sponsors, High Tech RC, Corselec USA, Hot Race Tires, and Sidewinder Fuels. Thank you to Tekno RC, Beach RC, Mayako, Stacked RC, Racecraft USA, and Clinic RC, as well as Donathan RC for your support. We have to remember our official NNRC drivers, who are David Ronnefolk, Robert Battier, Alexander Hackbert, who, by the way, is going to the on-road, or is at this point at On-Road Worlds in Bakersfield, California, if I'm not wrong. Thank you to Maddie G, Pekko and Jona, and Mason Fuller for being official NNRC drivers. Also, additional shout out to our affiliate sponsors, RC Box Club, Cow RC, Elite RC Productions, who are doing coverage of the AMS upcoming, Florida RC Championships, RC Body Armor, and House of RC, and 36 Mood. We also have a few birthdays. I put them down. David Olson, the sole HB guy in America. Jay Smoker, of all the people, Jay Smoker, stayed at his house once. was a very, let's put it this way, it was an enlightening experience. But shout out to the ridiculous one, Jay, and have a good one. Also the king, which is Saxton, turning years. I don't know how old he is, but happy birthday to all those guys. Yeah. Friend of the show, Alexander Hackbird as the Worlds. We're cheering on the guy. I know Keenan's cheering on the guy. And yeah, I don't know. I did that very fast. Usually Keenan takes 10 minutes to do this. So maybe I missed
It
something.
feels weird him not being here and doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope we haven't lost all our listeners now.
Yeah, we have to look at the retention rate when we release this one. But yeah, as we've told you many times, Keen is not here. It's just me and you, Will. Thanks to all of our sponsors. And before we move to our catch up, we gotta play an ad from our favorite character, at least one who divides us all. He's gonna tell you to stop scrolling.
Stop scrolling, you wanna be Lewis Hamilton? Learn something new with invisible speed. You can't do everything at 100% maximum speed. You have to be smooth. I mean, when you drive a real car, if you drive a real car, how do you just, when you get to a 90-degree corner to turn into the parking lot, do you go like that with the steering wheel? Do you like slam on the throttle and the brake? No. You probably turn the wheel smooth and get on the throttle smooth. Same thing with an RC car. If you want to learn more and make your speed visible, stop scrolling.
Stop scrolling. I love that ad. Every time it plays, I'm like in love. Not with JQ, obviously, but that ad, because it's genius. Yeah. So
it was that ad and the intro. I was laughing at the JQ photoshops. I only just noticed it for the first time.
Yeah, I love the Beaker ones. Yeah, we I mean, there's so much Beaker content throughout the years that we've had. It's crazy. Yeah, we have so much. I think we need to do a collage of that all. But yeah, as we said, Will was in America. Went to Masters Dirt and some other race. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because I was just following the group chat we were in. You was telling about going to practice, sorting out some tires. So how was it, and how it's been getting back home?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll give a little bit of a glimpse to it now, and I think we'll talk about it more later. But yeah, so I went to Masters Dirt, but I flew in. My friend has just moved to DC, so it kind of worked out. So I had a place to stay for a few days and visit the city and stuff. But we went to Mimi's to practice for a day. So we went there, and then pretty much the day after just drove straight down to Masters. So, but Masters, everyone kind of said that Mimi's would have more traction than Masters, but I actually felt like it was the opposite, which I was quite surprised about, because Mimi's is supposed to be, pardon me, like a glue track. But I know they recently just did the layout, so it felt like the grips all hadn't kind of come up, or maybe to be honest, my car wasn't the best. I followed someone's setup and we got it better. There was a guy there called Andrew, shout out to Andrew, that helped us out big time with tire prep and all that stuff. But yeah, tires was a real learning curve. But I'll get into that later. That was massive. I can't imagine the amount of stuff. Didn't realize you had to do all this stuff still.
Yeah. Did you have pre-glues like on carpet? Wasn't like EOS?
No,
where you just get pre-glues and go.
No, like no. Like no, glued it up. You have to like punch holes in the tires and then source them a certain way. Tire warmers, burn them.
Tire warmers. Okay, yeah, that's
yeah. I mean,
yeah, we gotta save a whole slot for this.
Well be on the drive. Yeah, let's save a whole slot for that. Yeah. Otherwise, it's been me going on about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, most of these podcasts can be, well, pretty much all of this podcast is going to be about Masters Dirt. I have a little bit of a rant for you guys, because I know, we're not keen on, so we have to give you something exciting, something for the people to really weighed upon to. And I notice people really like my rant about many good tracks, and I feel people sort of miss my point. And that is something I hate in life, is people missing my point. Keenan could be one to tell you the best. So we're gonna have a little bit of a rant at the end. But before we go into that, we gotta go through all of what happened at Masters Dirt. We talk about Will's experience, all of this, setup stuff, and so on. But before that, we actually are gonna talk about the Masters Dirt, and let's pay some bills before we move on to that, because this event review section of this podcast is brought to you by High-Tech RC. High-Tech RC, they released a new servo, a DB950 SW. The new brushless DB90 SW is the latest addition to our DB series servo line. All High-Tech DB series servos have been designed using our cutting-edge custom engineering, combining industry-leading high-resolution state-of-the-art ultra-response technology with a 32-bit MCU and a 12-bit ADC for unprecedented programmability and flexibility. Along with an ultra-efficient and powerful brushless motor, these servos deliver significantly smoother movement. This powerful line operates in a wide 4.8 to 8.4 voltage range, allowing use with any common battery chemistry without the need for adapters or regulators, featuring an industry standard 25-tooth output spline with 3mm hex screw and steel gears for maximum durability. Myself, I'm a high-tech driver, so I've been really happy with the servos. High-Tech's been a long-time sponsor of this podcast, long-time sponsor of our coverage from events. So thank you for High-Tech for sponsoring this show. All right, now we can get into what went on. It was held week ago, so full week before now in South Carolina. Almost all the top guys were there, except for a few from the West Coast. Rivkin, Bada, two X-ray guys, Lemieux and Reneknet missed it, but Rivkin and Bada were the only kind of big names, and then Lemieux and Reneknet. But apart from those guys, pretty much everyone was there, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much a stat field with all the top guys. I mean, they did say it was a lot less people compared to last year. It sounds like last year a lot of people kind of found the track really difficult from what I heard.
Yeah,
but I mean, this year was different. I thought the track was really good, at least compared. Well, I mean, last year looked really cool as well, but I guess the drive maybe was pretty tight. But that's just what I sound. But I know I heard Rivkin was out doing carpet testing, I think, for Florida, and Bada had a one-up race at his local track. But Chase and Tom, I have no idea why they weren't there. But I think other than that, all the top guys were pretty much there. It's a pretty stacked field.
Yeah, I think it's a bit frustrating in 10 scale, because in 8 scale it's pretty clear. Like, all of these top guys go to the 4 race time events and the 2 dirt events. You're going to see everyone there, with maybe few guys who are like mid-pack, like between A and B main, like that level drivers. Some of those guys miss some of these races, but the majority of the top 5 guys, or even top 10 guys, really, these guys are at all of these events. In 10 scale, I feel like there's a lot more variance. We have the Desert Classic these days, and then we have the Mod Masters Dirt, and apart from those two, there's not many dirt races. The Florida Carpet Champions has been really good, but I mean, that's obviously on carpet. I don't know how close it's cutting. Maybe people are kind of choosing that one. Also, I don't know if the touring car worlds affects anything. Probably not, to be honest.
Probably, but I know they literally had the Team Associated race at trackside, and apparently that's a pretty big race, which is the week after. Like, I know Brock, Cav, and a lot of those guys basically went home for like a day and basically went straight out there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Cav went, but I know Brock did for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I wish like because this was the big race for like big end of the year race for 10K. It was kind of Desert Classic at the beginning of the year and then Master Dirt at the end of the year. But yeah, about the race a bit. We talked about the new TLR prototype. That was a nice thing to see. They actually doing a new car. We talked about it in the last podcast. Um, do you actually know? Because I never got really good info that who were running the new car. We know Phend was running it, and perhaps Sontag too, or was there more people who was running the new car?
No, it was only. I mean, I saw glimpses of it. Like there was like maybe a few times I was able to kind of stare at it for a few seconds, but it was really hush hush. Like every time, like Dakota wasn't working or using that car, it was like in his OGO.
Okay,
But like it was only Dakota that had it. Taylor didn't have it. Nate didn't have it. I don't think King had it, or Cole or Schimmel had one. It was just Dakota that pretty much was the only guy running it.
Okay, so it was okay. That's interesting because in our silly season podcast we have kind of already unofficially confirmed that fans kind of looking for a way out from TLR. But then if they're building a new car and giving it just for him, that seems a bit of a weird strategy. So maybe he's not leaving.
Yeah, I was really surprised because when I heard that from Lefty, more importantly, I thought, oh, then why would they? If it is true, then why would Dakota have a car to like just race for maybe like a few races and that's it? Would not make sense to give it to maybe Tater or Taylor, however you say his name. But who knows? Maybe that's going to throw another monkey wrench into silly season. So. But I'm still really curious about how TLR is going down. Not only just Dakota, but like just how the TLR side is going. Like they're planning to build it again, or what direction it's going in.
Yeah. Now that we talked a little bit about the races and what's happened and like who was there, let's talk quickly about the track as well. Let me bring it up here. So here we have this year's layout. So obviously last year, as Will said, people complained that it was too technical. My opinion, it really never was too technical in any way. Sure, it was technical. There was big jumps, but it wasn't like jumps that you couldn't make or jumps that made it like impossible to do or whatever. It was just that you had to kind of like think a bit before you did it. So I don't know about that, like why people were so butthurt. But this year the track was completely different. So Lucas Loring from Beach RC, he does these layouts. He's become really, really good at this. He's built some incredible layouts recently. I don't know where he kind of, maybe it was like through the years he kind of developed this, but I remember back in the day the layouts were maybe a bit weird because of the shape of the track. It's kind of pretty much a square, the shape of the track. But then a few years back, I remember he made this one layout that people absolutely loved, and since then, all of the layouts he's produced have been at least got people talking. Sure, I got some criticism last year, but in my opinion, it was a bit undeserved. So, yeah, I'd say main sort of style of this track, Keenan called it like that it looks like a pump track. I think that's quite an accurate description. Not very many jumps, to be honest. A lot of like rollers, drop offs, and like off camber stuff. But then not that many jumps necessarily. But I don't think that tracks need specifically like a double or a triple or something to have like a proper jump. And I don't know, how was it like actually driving on it?
It was a really like echoing your words. I thought it was a really good track. Like it was, I guess from my side being the English, being an English going there, I was kind of assuming it was going to be like some sort of massive triple or something. But when you actually drive on the track, there wasn't really a big jump where you could gun it, which I guess is kind of a good thing because you're not really going to be risking your car into a crash or whatever. But But in general, I thought the track was really good. The only kind of key points I was going to say was that top left section was really hard to see from the rostrum because unless you're standing on the left hand side, it was really hard to see the face of I guess the up ramp in the top left corner. So you'd go around that corner, kind of just hope that you weren't going to clip the pipe. And kind of the same with the 180. Well, it's not a 180, but I guess the left-hander before it, but it's off camber as well. So at the beginning, when traction was lower, like your car could, like at least my car, like you kind of getting on the power that you'd maybe spin into the pipe. But once the grip came up, it wasn't too bad. You kind of just powered right off it. But it was kind of weird because when you were marshalling in the top left corner and you were kind of going up it looks like the cars were like almost like struggling like to kind of get up. It looked like they almost had just enough grip to get up there because obviously you're going to it pretty slow and then you're putting the power on, and with it being so steep, like the photo doesn't do justice. Like it looked like the cars were kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but if you, let's say like you're gonna put your car like on a 45-degree ramp on ice, you'll see it like kind of squirm, kind of trying to get up. That's it, squirm up. So it was kind of squirming there. But I think other than that, the rest of the trail was pretty good. The right hand side was a bit of a blind spot. I don't know what you would call it. It's not really I don't want to call it a roller, but it's like it's kind of like a hill, but kind of transition. Yeah, then which like turns right into to the two tabletops. That was pretty hard to judge and see as well. Unless you're standing in the right place. A lot of top guys were kind of just, I don't know how they were doing it. They would kind of go straight at first, but then cut straight across, but jump it. I'm sure we'll see the videos later. But I mean, I was just trying to not crash, to be honest. So I was just kind of rolling it and just trying not to break my car or something or crash pretty much. But I thought it was a really good track. It flowed really well. Like, I think like once you got into a rhythm, it was really good, but I don't give anything once you got out of your rhythm. I just found it, at least from my side, being on dirt for the third while, being on dirt, not being used to it, I found it weird getting back into a rhythm, but that's just more of a me thing more than anyone else. But no, I thought the track was really good. Like, so no, not really any complaints from me, to be fair.
Yeah, one thing I kind of, when looking at these videos, one thing I kind of saw that it was a very like rhythm track. Like you had to have this, a lot of like the corners go back and forth. So you go left and the next turn is always right. So you are always closing for the next one. Apart from that one hip jump you was talking about. So I feel like it looked like a track where you had to really like stay in rhythm to keep up the speed. It wasn't like one of those shooting into a corner 180 and then out, or you have a chicane or a jump that like you lose speed on. It's more so like you have to consistently keep moving around the track. That's kind of the vibe I got.
Yeah, you didn't really have like a second or two to kind of chill out a little bit, like a long straight. You were literally the whole time just turning or doing something, which was, I found it quite difficult, but that's just how they race. But yeah, I thought you were always having to be on top of the car, I felt like, because the track was quite small and then it's quite technical. But no, I thought it was pretty good though.
Yeah.
So I think this is qualifying that Max is showing
yeah, so
right now.
I was actually so I thought to also show some like laps around the track. This is from Q1 from Tool Drive. It's I don't know how to like describe it more. That it feels like a one of those pump tracks or tracks that you like. It's I don't really know. I have never really seen a track like this in RC because there aren't many jumps. Like almost all of the jumps, it's not really that hard to take the landing. There's none of those jumps you have to really reach for the landing. If you look at these cars going around that, any of these like doubles or tabletops, all of them have like way more throw than you would actually need. So it's more so about downsiding the landing, scrubbing enough speed on the upside of the jump, and then maintaining that speed that you get from the landing going forwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's that point where Dakota just went, that way went over and out just before the beach bowl, where you kind of you go over, it's kind of a hump, and then you kind of have this off camber 180 into that kind of beach bowl. That was actually quite hard to do because obviously 4-wheel is fine, but the 2-wheel, you almost wanted to get as close as you can to the line, but then jump it into the next corner. But there are a lot of guys were clipping the top of the lander and flipping. Like this point where the coach is going over now, a lot of people, especially at the beginning, they were just clipping that and making mistakes. So even towards the finals, it wasn't too much of an issue because you could basically hug that section tight and just gun it. But at the beginning, you always had to go a little bit wide to clear it. That was the only thing I noticed, at least at the beginning. I mean, I think by the time these guys were on, I think it was fine. But it was something.
Yeah. So going forwards, obviously open practice, right? As any American race. Is that correct?
Yeah, open practice. So they did it like a 5-minute stint. So which is nothing I've never been used to. Is like lining up for 20 minutes just to do a 5-minute practice, but so be it.
Oh, that's rookie numbers, dude. I've been there for at least 30 minutes. You know, that's kind of what you're supposed to get. I think the longest I've seen was some videos they did from Florida Carpet Championships where it went all the way almost outside of the building, the line. It did like a serpent,
Jesus,
serpent around the building. But yeah, so open practice, and then we move on to qualifying. We showed you a little bit of Q1, watching Phend going around the track, but it was Champlin who really looked strong, at least in two-wheel drive, also in four-wheel drive. Incredibly strong all the way through qualifying. And following Champlain was Phend, and then Sontag running on third for two-wheel drive. In truck, you had Champlain's weak class, I'd say. Only class he was not able to be on pace at any point. So it was
Phend. I actually kind of was part of that issue for Champlain.
Oh, really? Okay, so you gotta let us know.
Yeah, I kind of accidentally. I didn't mean to, obviously, but I did kind of accidentally take him out of one of the qualifiers. I was trying to lap him. It was on that top section. I went a little bit wide on the. It's not like I don't want to say it's like a corner tabletop, but it kind of is. And my truck just kind of spun out, and like Champlain just kind of went in. Well, Champlain went into me, and he had to get marshaled. So,
yeah.
But apparently he wasn't. Apparently he wasn't on a TQ run anyway, so it wasn't too bad. But obviously,
he was he was off pace.
Paid, obviously, so I felt bad.
Yeah. So he was off pace, all the way through truck. So yeah, I think he qualified fourth, finished sixth or something, but he was pretty much off pace on truck. Phend was able to TQ truck, Horn second, and Sontag third. And you made it straight to the A final in truck.
Hell yeah! And I don't even race truck that.
Yeah,
much.
that's I was surprised to see you race truck. When I saw you on that list of guys who made the A, I was like, oh, you race truck. But do you guys even race it in the UK? Yeah, do you race it in the UK?
I honestly do it twice a year for EOS and MKGP, and that's it.
All right,
that's all the racing I do. So I'll take that. To be honest,
yeah,
I'll take that. That's a win for me.
Yeah, and then last class, four-wheel drive, we got Champlin TQing that as well, then Evans and Phend. To be honest, it's hard to really tell much from qualifying in these American races because there's so little, like, even at EOS, we have 4 rounds of qualifying. Here you have 3. And if you screw up one round, you absolutely have to make the other 2. So it's hard to really, like, nobody really goes their maximum speed, like, at all times. Or there's at least one guy always who has to kind of take a safe points and so on, or someone who's trying stuff because there's not that much practice. But yeah, overall, I think Champlin looked really, really good throughout qualifying.
Yeah, no, I was quite impressed because I personally never thought the Schumacher cars were actually that strong on dirt. But watching Champlin in 2 and 4 wheel, and that thing looked rapid. Like he's clearly found something with those cars. I mean, I don't think Cav can say the same, but at least Brock has found something. I don't know if it's a driving style of Brock, but like it looked really good. I was quite impressed because I always thought the Schumacher. I don't want to say anything bad about Schumacher because I really like the guys there, but I always just thought they weren't that strong on dirt. So it's good to see in the US that the cars are at least getting better, which is important for those guys.
Yeah. Apart from those top guys, Cavalieri, I know I've been giving him a lot of shit on the show lately, but he barely made it to the A in all this week. I think he qualified 8th, and 7th in truck, if I'm not totally wrong. Or maybe it was 6th in truck. I can't remember exactly, but he was pretty much on the brink of the A in each of those classes after qualifying. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, dude. Like, do you want to say something? Because I've been giving him so much.
I know he had a few breakages, so I'll give him that. He had a few breakages. I can't remember if he had a traffic. One of them was like from traffic or something, but I will give him that. He had a few breakages and issues and transmission and whatever. But yeah, I mean, but I don't know if it's just how far the other guys have come on. I mean, I don't want to say he's getting old, but is that it, or is it something else?
Yeah, because on the last podcast I told that he should quit 8 scale and only focus on 10 scale. But to be honest, like he didn't look incredibly strong at this event. Especially when your teammate is like absolutely dominating qualifying and you're barely making it to A. I was like this ain't looking too good for the guy. But yeah, in stock, you even wrote a note that Nate Sutherland was on fire. I have to be honest here, I do not know who Nate is. I know Doug Lariviere. I know who's Hunter King, but this Nate guy I've never heard of. But he TQ dual drive and truck and was 2nd in 4-wheel drive. It was kind of like him and Hunter King were like the top 2 dogs in qualifying. Doug finished 3rd in truck and 4-wheel drive, and Taylor and Henley 3rd in 2-wheel drive. But yeah, like how was qualifying in stock? Because you said that Doug seemed a little bit off in qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard of Nate before, but then obviously I didn't really talk to him, but I obviously saw him driving. But he definitely seemed to be the fastest in stock without a shadow of a doubt. Like it just sounded like his car sounded a little bit funny. I think like it almost sounded like it was about to break, but I think maybe that might have just been a one run or something. But he seemed like the guy to beat in stock. Like his car was really quick. He was doing some clean runs, and his car looked pretty good as well. But yeah, and I was kind of expecting Doug to win. I mean, I don't pay attention too much to the stock guys, but I was honestly expecting Doug to kind of TQ and win. But he looked like he kind of struggled a little bit in qualifying. Like he had a few too many mistakes. He didn't look comfortable, but I saw him. He was constantly making changes as well. But I know towards the end, we'll get to it later, that I think he managed to pretty much turn everything around. But yeah, and then the Hunter as well. Like I didn't realize like Hunter was that fast. I mean, I thought he was only a mod driver. I didn't realize he was doing stock now. But yeah, he was doing stock, and he had a lot of bad luck in the finals and qualifying. I kind of felt bad for him watching him, but I mean, that's racing. But I think he did well in 4-wheel, the TQ. And I think those guys, even though the cars, I guess you could say, is an old car now, they're still getting it around really good. So I think overall, stock was, I think that was kind of it for stock, to be fair. I don't really know who Talon Henley is, so I can't say much about him. Sorry if you're listening, pal.
Yeah, it's bad because like stock is a big class, and it's kind of like 250 motocross. Like I absolutely see stock as being like, it could become one of those like really high end classes, maybe not professional, but those guys who are looking to go pro, they kind of become good in stock and then they move up to pro. And like some of these guys, yeah, they can make it, but it's like motocross, maybe some of these guys are just good on a small bike and then they just never never go to that extent on a big bike. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing in electric on road. Before I was a huge like just never do stock, whatever. But I think in this day and age, the amount of power that mod cars have, and especially now that we're on carpet, there is a real place for something like stock. Because when it's like somewhat loose dirt or like surface where you can absolutely use that extra power by tuning your engine or reducing friction or whatever it is, sure, then there's a big difference in the equipment you have. But I feel like when you have a track where the equipment is not the manufacturer but your skills as a stock racer, that's kind of what we need to search for in stock. And I feel like the way you have to set up the cars and the way you have to find speed is much more interesting than that of mod in the current era. So I think like we kind of have to start talking about it more. And like, yeah, I don't know most of these guys. I don't really know much about stock, but I don't know. I already see it making its way to Europe, and I feel like it's coming here as well. Like we just kind of have to admit that the track conditions and the cars and the battery technology has changed stuff a lot, so that you can actually use stock as a proper class. Because there was a point where stock was just silly, like these people were just like running pink pinions, nobody knew how to drive, and it felt like a pay to win class. But I feel now the level of stock is so high, you have to start taking these guys seriously, because there's a high probability that one of these guys is going to become a pro racer one day, especially the younger guys, like the Levi brothers and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I also get it's good for marketing as well, because, like, I mean, yeah, I do agree as well. Like, in a way, it is sometimes a bit of a pay-to-play class, but it's also the class that means you have to buy a lot more to kind of get good. And I don't mean like if you don't have it, you're nowhere, but it's also a way to help brands push their products and like all the ceramic bearings and stuff. Like, I don't know about you, Max, but like, and I probably should be running this stuff, but like I don't really run, like, for example, ceramic bearings and all this titanium stuff. Well, like in stock you would, because it makes a difference. And I guess you could argue if they're making more sales, then it's kind of good for the industry, because it means that they can grow. And like, I don't know if that kind of makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think about stock coming to Europe, I don't know, like, because even now, especially where it was kind of coming to EOS, and even now EOS has a stock class, but with EOS only being one race now a year, like, I don't know how many events will follow suit. Like, I'm kind of in two places about it. I mean, I think in America you can take them seriously, these guys, 100%, but I don't know in Europe, especially now, but it's also early days, if it would be the same thing or not.
Yeah, because I agree with you that it's a tough one in Europe, because there isn't a culture for racing like this, like that. Because I think in America it kind of has always been somewhat of a thing, like stock class or whatever. But in Europe, it's brought from America, so it's not like a inherent thing that was kind of made up in some way here in Europe and grew on its own. So it's kind of, we're trying to install this ready-made package to the European market. And I don't know if it's going to work, but I have to say that what stock has done for touring cars, and how, like, if touring cars didn't have mod, the touring car racing would be dead. Like, it just would be dead. Like, if you look at ETS, there's like 25 guys racing mod. Like, nobody races mod. If you go to almost any country around the world, around Europe, like, you can barely get a mod field together. And especially when you talk, like, if you go even a step further, we talk about pan cars. That's even a more like crazy step, because the amount of power those things have is insane, and the speed and the, like, no one can, who's not like a really, really experienced driver for that class, no one can say that they can fully wheel a 12 scale pan car, a mod 12 scale pan car, because those things are extremely fast and you have to take them around for 8 minutes. and that kind of the increase of power that has happened in the past, let's say 5 to 10, well, I'd say 10 years now, the increase in power on these electronics and the fact that you can run a shorty battery with using all of that power for the whole 5 minutes, if it's touring cars or, 10 scale off-road, that has been the big change, in my opinion, why stock racing has become viable. Because if you think about it, back in the day, we was pretty much running stock. Like the amount of power with those brushed engines, brushed motors, and NiCad batteries, that was pretty much stock. Because like the amount of power was so small, and that you just couldn't go faster. And then now we're at a situation where we have too much. We're not searching for power anymore in any way. And I think that kind of limits a lot of things from the drive, as it limits people starting, but it also limits companies and people pushing their product further. Because it's more about your driving skills, which a very narrow group of people have, than like how can you tune your equipment, how do you have the package together, and so on. So I think that's why stock's going to be more interesting, because at the end of the day, 90% of, okay, let's not say 90, but probably around 40 to 50% of RC races are in it because they can tinker on their car. But when it feels like no matter what you do to the car, you're just having a tough time, it puts people off a bit. And I think this is a huge tangent, by the way. Keenan would have like watermelon seeded me like 5 times already, but now without him,
100%.
we can go on about this.
But this is going to be like a 6-hour podcast now.
Yeah, but I sincerely believe that. Yeah, I sincerely believe that the change is also coming here, because I see how seriously these brands, like a lot of these brands, send stock touring car racers abroad to race, in America or in Thailand or whatever, and they go there to do well in stock. Yeah, sure, they might race mod as well, or they might race like F1 or whatever, but the number one class they go there for is stock. And yeah, I think like that we are entering into an era where RC electronics are so developed that we have to find alternate ways to make it more competitive on the equipment side. And I think stock has kind of been that solution. I think there's still adjustments to be made. And I have presented this idea before, that we don't have mod, we have like a set turn amount blinky mod or whatever. Like that's just an idea. I'm not saying that would be the ruling, but like that type of setting. And that's kind of where I'm going, because it seems like mod just isn't popular anymore. Even in Finland, like nobody races 10 scale mod. All of those guys who would like to race like 4-wheel drive mod, they would just turn into 8 scale electric, because that's now the class that represented what kind of 4-wheel drive 10 scale off-road was, because now they're just too fast, you have too much grip, you have everything, blah blah blah. So I don't know, UK, you're like the most principled on this, because you only have you have 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and sometimes you have truck. Like that's all you have at races. So you have a very different setting. But I see in Finland, like there could be like 2 heats of mod and then 4 heats of like a stock at a club race. And that's, to me,
is that even for buggies, or is that just touring car?
No, I'm talking 2-wheel drive buggies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
So to me, like that's insane. Like the switch, how it happened. And then there were some people who would race stock and mod, but they would race it with the stock car. So like I think like that would be that's like a big shift I've seen happen, and that has been like a big factor of bringing in new, very enthusiastic hobbyists to 10 scale.
Yeah, I definitely, now that you've kind of mentioned it, especially with touring car and on-road, I 100% agree with you. I think like the fact that there is a split, and because obviously I have driven a mod touring car once, and yeah, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but it does get a bit ridiculous sometimes, but I think it's good. Like, because I definitely agree. Like sometimes now you almost reluctant because the cars are so quick. They almost can be hard to drive as well. So stock is kind of nice because you're only focusing on driving. Like we have I don't know, I don't think it's that big in Europe, but there I can't remember. Like we have this class that Schumacher basically made this car. It's like it's basically a pan car, but I think it's like I can't remember it at the top of my head, but it's like you run 17.5. It's basically a pan car, but it's got like a more of a car style body on it. But like they're really fun and a good entrance class because you just run that class. There's no mod to it or anything. You can get the car for like £100 or 150 or whatever, and it's a really good way to get into racing. So the onward side, I actually agree that I think stock is a really good thing, and I don't know if they're doing stock and mod at this Worlds. I don't know if you know that or not.
They are.
Or is it just modified?
Yeah, Touring Car Worlds, as we said, happening this week, and they're doing both. But I don't know if the stock champion is an official. I have to check that, but I'm pretty sure it's an official world championship for the stock as well. Because it was that for Pancar, right? So last year, Max Machler, he won for Pancars the stock, and he was an official IFMA world champion. So I think they're doing official stock world championships in on-road classes.
Yeah, which I actually feel like it's actually a good thing. And it was GT12. That's what I was trying to remember.
Yeah, okay.
It's massive. It's massive in the UK, but I don't think they do it much. But but I mean, buggies, I'm kind of go on.
No, I mean, I was just about to say that in Finland, like Pancars, there's maybe a heat or two, and then the rest are GT12. Like it's so much more popular in a lot of areas.
Yeah, because it's just simple. It's kind of like, I don't say not grassroots, but yeah, it's just the cars are more simple. They haven't got all the high tech stuff that the pan cars have, and I think they're generally easy to drive. I don't know if you've driven one. I mean, you can just throw them around, pretty much.
Yeah, I've never driven a GT12. I've driven a pan car like once or twice, but never driven a GT12. But I imagine it's similar, but just more floaty because of the body shell.
Yeah, that's basically. But yeah, but I was going to say, like with buggies, I'm still, maybe it's just my arrogant British coming out, but I'm still a little bit unsure in it. But I mean, one thing I learned from America was like the cars, that at least how we set them up electrics wise, we basically made them as fast as a stock car, at least for Masters of Dirt and Mimis. Obviously bigger tracks, I can imagine you'll take advantage of the power. And I'm just talking on dirt. Obviously, carpet, there's obviously a bigger difference. But yeah, you almost made them as fast as a stock car. So I almost kind of felt, well, it's just dividing the class now. One's kind of more pro and one's stock. But I mean, I guess it goes both ways. I also like, but then when you go on the carpet, like you said before, Will, like it can get to a point where it's just a bit like we're making the cars so fast. They just get so hard to drive. I definitely feel like in the last 5 years, like because we're running so much power, like we're going through tires quicker. The cars are getting a little bit harder to drive, and it's I just feel sometimes it's getting a little bit insane. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, like how quick these things are now, but it also just isn't kind of the same sometimes. But then like you also got to look at the other side, like with mod, it's like stock, because you're limited by power, you're always trying to get the cars to just be as fast as you can. And the setup is almost like in geometry and stuff is kind of secondary. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but that's kind of how I feel with it. But then like modified is obviously more like geometry side. And I guess you could argue with mod, like you're pushing the cars to the limit, which I guess for development is a great thing, because if you're pushing the cars to the limit, you can learn a lot more, and it's better for development. You learn a lot more. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I mean, that is a good point. That is a good point. I don't think necessarily that like you're wrong there, because I kind of just made the assumption that, or like kind of deducted that okay, stock races put more stuff on their cars, but to be honest, that's mostly just to make them light. They do all these bearings and modifications to make them roll better and so on. But yeah, I do agree that setup wise, maybe stock is not as precise because you have so much more time as a driver to react to that. So setup, maybe, yeah, mod could be the one where you have to be better at setting up your car, knowing what the limits of the car and so on, because you are acting at higher speeds. You're putting more force in the car during acceleration or braking or steering or whatever, because you just you have more movement in the car. I do kind of agree with that, but I still do think there should be an aspect of like, because RC is a weird like motorsport in a way that we think of the overall weight of the car as a tuning option more so than like having a faster car. To me, that's a wild idea, and it tells like basically then at that point you just have too much power. And that's kind of the only solution, like the only thing that leads up to that. And that's kind of where I guess some of my arguments are based. But in principle, I just feel part of motorsport is also to make the car be more efficient, make the car go faster. Like the point of a car is not to have everything overheating after 10 minutes, The point of it is to be so efficient that it works and is like produces the maximum amount of power with minimum amount of losses over 10 minutes, which is basically what you're trying to do with stock. And I don't know, I that's something that kind of is a thing in 8 scale because you have fuel mileage. So you have to look at your fuel mileage and then the power of the motor, of the engine. So that's kind of the limiting factor in 8 scale. In mod to like 10 scale, there's no limiting factor. You can have as much power as you can handle as long as you can attach a new fan into the car, basically. Because you could just put a bigger battery if you need more power. Most people cannot run low center of gravity batteries anyway, especially for all drive. It's pretty much impossible with the amount of power we have because of the fact that the C rating of the battery is not enough. In tool drive, I don't know, do people still run? I think on high grip they run the low batteries, but I have heard people run out of battery at some of these events.
Yeah, I know the Euros is a big issue. I mean, I don't want to open a can of worms again, but at least for us guys in the UK, we run LCG on 2-wheel and 4-wheel, but I think it's more of an issue on. Yeah, we run on 4-wheel, but I don't think we're as demanding on power like we are on carpet, or like the Euros where you're always on power and you're pushing everything to the limit in that sense. I mean, our tracks are bumpy and more lower grip compared to carpet, so it's not as bad. But yeah, I know for sure it's not normally an issue, to be honest. But I think maybe this Euros was probably kind of a one-off when I did hear people actually dumping, which is quite crazy. That if you're going through 4,000 milliamps in 5 minutes or whatever it is, that's quite. I'm quite mind-boggled with that, to be fair.
Yeah, I think there was at least Pekko ran out of battery once, and there was some other drivers I heard run out of battery at the end of a qualifying run, which is insane to think of. But I don't know if they were running LCG. But I remember there was this time when, especially on like these very high speed EOS tracks, in 4-wheel drive you just couldn't run LCG. I don't know if it's the case anymore because I haven't been to EOS in a while. Like maybe the battery technology has improved. But when I went last to EOS, you just kind of had to run a big pack in 4-wheel drive because of the fact that you would have these. Basically, the C rating was not high enough, and it would just puff up after a run or completely like just lose drive the car because you're pulling in so much power from the battery. But that could have changed because we have new ESCs and new batteries. But
yeah, I mean, at least from the EOSs I've been to, it's been fine. But I run a tamer car than most guys. But then it kind of comes back to like, are we just running too much power now? But the argument is it too much power? But then the argument is everyone just getting that much faster? Where like you need that power, and to be honest, I think you do. Like I think ultimately to get the fastest lap, to get the quickest, I think you need that power. To be honest with you, it's a kind of annoying because you make everything so hard to drive. But I think that's just where we're going. Like we're just starting to push everything to the limit, which I guess you could argue is a good thing because we're having to develop more, or maybe you could say it's a bad thing. Maybe because it's like maybe for someone like me and you and guys who are racing for years, it's okay because you're used to it. But imagine bringing someone new into the hobby, which like, and you give them like a 4-wheel drive of 4.5. I don't think any beginner would do that. Normally, four-wheel drive, kind of like your second car you get or third or whatever. But then like, would they be steered off with that? But then I feel like now kind of a hypocrite because now this is where I'm kind of saying, oh well, maybe that's where stock would actually be good. So maybe I've just gone in the whole circle.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah. No,
For no reason.
No, but like, to be honest, like that's kind of why I ended up here where I'm now. Because I don't know which podcast this was, but there was a time on this podcast where I just straight out said like stock sucks, just race mod. But I do think, because it's just like I haven't felt 10 scale is that much fun. Like I that's why I kind of quit 10 scale, because it's just it's not really that fun to drive. You just have like, yeah, sure, I can take off power and so on for myself because I don't really race 10 scale. But I feel like the sort of class itself, the way the cars are done and so on, mod has somewhat, in my opinion, kind of ruined the idea of that. And obviously, one solution could be just reducing can size. So we could, because the reason why we're running these big motors is because back in the day, we couldn't get enough power. But like we could reduce can size, we could, reduce, like voltage should not probably be reduced because that's going to be a big issue. Can size, probably easier to change, to be honest, than voltage. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of having some form of like regulated timing, like way. Like you regulate timing to a point, and then you can play with that area or whatever, and then you regulate turn number of the engine, something like this. I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel, because you're running 5-minute race. Okay, these 10-minute races you guys had at the Masters Third, we should get back on the topic, but these 10-minute races Master Third, this is going to be the thing that's going to limit that, though, because you're going to have to make sure your stuff doesn't overheat, your stuff stays similar to drive across the 10 minutes. You have enough battery. Like you cannot be pouring so much power out of the battery if you have to make it 10 minutes. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe you just limit the time, because that's kind of what happened in 8-scale electric. Like these people have to limit power because they're going to run out of battery in 10 minutes. Like especially those guys who run shorties. And I heard Mugen actually is holding on to those long battery trays because of Burak Kilic, who cannot make 10 minutes with shorties. And LRP released like a mid-size pack. So it's between a shorty and a full length, which fits to the associated battery tray. And I assume that's pretty much made for Burak, so he can make 10 minutes. But like that's kind of, there is a limit in 8-scale electric. But in 10-scale, there previously really hasn't been. And I feel like there should be. Like that there should be some form of limit as like how far you can go with power. Be it like, then how big of a battery do you want to carry on the car, or whatever the way you limit it. But I feel like there always should be a limit, because otherwise it's gonna get like you want to have all the things balanced. You don't want to have too much grip on the car with no power. You don't want to have too much power with no grip, and you don't want to have a car that cannot handle like jumps or the grip or whatever. And you want to have everything balanced. You want to have a car that can handle the amount of power, and we want to have the power so that the tracks can handle that power, and so on. That's kind of why I'm very interested in this topic recently, because I feel like the power imbalance is now it's grown enough where it's noticeable that it's reducing the raceability of these cars, number one, but it's also reducing like the fun in driving these cars, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the issue is more apparent on carpet, to be honest, more than anything. I think on other surfaces like dirt and Astro, it's not too bad, but is I definitely see where you're coming from, because even in mod, like I had my EPA on my power. I had a 7.5 and a low torque rotor, turn everything down, and then on my transmitter put it down to 90%, which was just to get it to a point where it's raceable. I mean, obviously it felt great by that point, but then I drove someone's stock car and it felt like the same speed. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely feel like for sure on the high traction and stuff, I think it's getting a bit out of hand. But yeah, I definitely agree with you a lot of points there, to be fair, especially 10-minute mains. Now that I've done it, yeah, I really like them.
Yeah.
I think I'd hate it if I was leading races. I would hate it.
Yeah.
But I think for someone that like, if I made a mistake at the beginning or halfway, I'm like, okay, there's still hope. But yeah.
So I think that's a great segue to move on to back talking about Masters of Dirt. This was like a half an hour tangent. You know, I hope Keenan listens to this podcast, and I hope he's like, you know, I hope he like listens.
I feel like he's swearing at you, like, as he's listening to this.
Yeah, I know.
Why is he still talking about this?
Yeah. Okay. So we ended with stock and qualifying, so we can start on stock for the finals. We talked about Nate. I hope I wrote these results correctly, but it seems like he won tool drive and truck, which he TQ'd as well. Doug kind of came back, finished second in both tool drive and truck. Then Jeff Statkiewicz came back in tool drive for third, and Zach Mazarek came for third in truck. The only class Nate didn't win was four-wheel drive, which Hunter King won, with Doug Lariviere in second and Jeff Statkiewicz in third. So kind of Hunter King kind of only having a good four-wheel drive where he started from pole, dropped back in both two-wheel drive truck. Do you have anything interesting from the mains from stock side?
No, not really anything interesting. I mean, I think Nate had a gearbox, in my opinion, maybe a pinion or spur issue. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, he had that early on, which because how the Masters of Dirt thing is, it's from what I don't know if it's the same for stock, but I think two-wheel drive gets priority, so you get most points from that. Then there's like you get some points if you win four-wheel, and then the same for truck. And because all three count to the championship, so even though, to be fair, he won two-wheel and truck, because he didn't win four-wheel, it meant that Doug won. And thinking about it here, like, I mean, it's quite. Well, I mean, obviously you have to finish the race to win, but I mean, obviously, like Doug didn't win any of the mains, but it looked like he kind of almost. Nate did have a really good, pretty big lead in all the mains in both mains. So it was kind of just his to lose, and I guess that was the case in foil. But I feel like Doug, I think he kind of just held in there in second, and it kind of paid off, to be fair to him. And so he managed to get the win overall. So he got the stock Masters Championship. So I think he gets like a parking spot next year, and obviously wins the race. So I think that's kind of what I have for stock. And Hunter finally had some luck, and he won four-wheel, which was good to see, because he had some really unlucky mains as well. He had a good chance, I think, in two and truck, but so at least he has some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, 3 second place finishes, not bad for Dog, but yeah, I don't really know much about the stock guys, so it's a bit tough talking about this. But maybe we need to, like, if we do these 10 scale race reviews with you, we're gonna have to form characters. We're gonna invite them on the show. maybe that's gonna be good. We can invite them on the show because,
let's do it.
yeah, because I have to be honest, like I don't know any of these guys. Like I've never met any of these guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I did spend some time talking to Doug and Hunter. I mean, they were really chill guys, to be honest.
Yeah.
I always kind of, sorry for saying this, Doug, but whenever I see Doug, I always feel like he just looks like he's, don't say depressed, but he almost kind of looks like it. But then, like when you get talking to him, he's fine. I don't know if he's just like he's just in the zone, and some guys are just like that. But he was a really chill guy, and so was Hunter. He has a souvenir from Darren's 4-wheel drive. You won't know what happened, but Hunter will know what happened. So I think apparently he's hung up a belt from a Schumacher. So
okay,
there you go. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Then moving on to the mod classes. One great thing we really don't do in Europe. EOS and ETS has been doing this lately, but they just bump up one. Is the whole bump up thing. So the thing with having a single 10-minute main, also the additional good thing is you get to have bump ups because the ladder works very naturally for that. For tool drive, we had Julian Oliveras and Gavin Bushina. For truck, we had Colin Leonard and Mark Reed. And for 4-wheel drive, we had no other but Julian Oliveras and our boy Will. And actually, I got a video up here. Let me get it up because you made the bump, dude. So tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had a good chance to do it in 2 or melt as well, but I made a really stupid mistake, and I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, 4-wheel. To be fair, I actually didn't make a mistake early on, but then I think, what's his name? Gavin made a mistake, and I just drove clean and managed to get the bump. It's before this was kind of annoying that the top 8 bump in because I qualified 10th in 4-wheel. So in theory, I would have made it in directly. There wasn't bump ups. So the fact I kind of had to prove it in the B main as well was pretty tough. But I mean, to be honest, I was going to this race just purely for experience. I was kind of hoping like I wouldn't even finish last. So to come here and at least make the main in truck and 4-wheel and get pretty competitive towards the end, really happy with, and only Brit to do it. So I'll take that.
Yeah, but I have to. I was
really chuffed to do it.
Yeah, I have to say that although I always knew that you was like a decent racer, I was a bit surprised when I saw you making both mains. Granted, like here, maybe a lot of these guys who would normally be on the split of A and B are running stock, but still, I think there was plenty of guys out there, so it wasn't like there wasn't many races in mod. I think that's a pretty solid result, dude.
Yeah, I'll take that. So I mean, because I know America's super competitive, so I feel like
the thing is like, oh no, you crashed. So you actually had to fight for it. I didn't have a chance to watch this. I have to say, but like, I think I don't know. I feel like it's because racing on dirt is very different than racing on carpet or even the workshop. Like all of that is very different than anything.
Oh yeah, I mean I've raced I've raced at workshop and obviously here, and although there are some similarities, it is completely different. But I mean this was not to suck myself off even more, but like this was like my first real dirt race. I did the Worlds, but that wasn't sourced or anything, so I'd like to say it's kind of different, but this was my first race, so no, I mean I was pretty happy to do it. I mean obviously I gotta say it's special thanks to Paul from J Concepts for like the tire help stuff, like, and Damien, like he helped so much, and Dustin and Aiden actually helped out quite a lot as well. So like everyone helped out where they could. So and I felt like towards the end, once you learned everything and got used to it, I felt like I was pretty good. So in 4-wheel that seemed the case. So But yeah, no, it was a really good event, and I was really happy to make the main. To be fair, I didn't think I'd ever do that.
Yeah, I was. I have to say I was a bit surprised, but then you was solidly in there, and 2 out of 3. That's not bad. It's like you kind of belong there at this point.
Well, I mean, you said it. But I mean, apparently it wasn't as competitive as years before, but still, I'm taking it.
Oh yeah, take
Taking
everything you can. Okay, that's it for the bumps. Let's move on to tool drive. This was kind of the one where Champlin was able to just take off. He started from pole. Oh, sorry, I played the wrong one. This is full drive. Tool drive. Champlin was just pretty much able to take off. And yeah, I don't know, like what else there like could be said about the top. He was out front for the whole thing. Yeah, no issues whatsoever, and it was kind of a fight for second, to be honest.
Pretty much. I mean, even through qualifying here, he just looked like the guy to beat in 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive. Just his stuff just looked really good. It looked pretty quick, like motor-wise, so it looked like he was able to handle it quite well. His tire package seemed solid. I was actually putting opposite next to him, but he seemed like pretty calm, cool, and collected as well. But it was just a shame what happened in 4-wheel. But yeah, I mean, other than that, in qualifying and finals, especially 2-wheel, I think he was the man to beat.
Yeah. I mean, for second, it was kind of between Phend and Horn. Horn came all the way back from, if I'm not totally wrong, 4th or 5th from the. Okay, so not all the way back, but yeah, he came a bit back. So Tater, I don't know. You said he broke. I don't know what happened to him because he looked really good on qualifying, but then in the main, never really
Tater broke in.
Had a shot.
Yeah, Tater broke in. He broke in 4-wheel drive, but I feel like when I was watching him in qualifying, I felt like I feel like his cars. He had a few issues. I hope it's right, but I can't remember entirely. But I feel like he had like a few breakages in qualifying or DNFs. But so I don't know if it's just. But yeah, as I say that.
Oh yeah, that's what happened.
That jump I was on about.
That one was the kind of big drop he had. Yeah, then obviously Phend makes a mistake, puts Aiden up to second, and then these two kind of battle it off to the end. I don't know. What was your feeling about Evans? Because obviously he was up there in qualifying a 4-wheel drive, but he seemed to be a bit quiet here. I don't know for what reason, but really in the mains, that seemed to be quite of a quiet one for him.
Yeah, I think I feel like I don't want to say much bad because he helped me quite a lot, but like it seems like in qualifying Dustin is really strong, and it just seems like in the finals, like I don't know, he just makes a mistake or something, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem as strong in finals like compared to qualifying. Because I know in 4-wheel he qualified second, and his car looks really good. Like he didn't look quick but obviously the clock says otherwise. But then in finals, I know for sure in 4-wheel, I think over that section that Brock just went over now, like I think which is also a hard section, but I think he got it a little bit wrong and he had to get marshaled, and then it let Phend through basically. But I don't know, I just feel like Evans just has a bit of bad luck with the finals here, to be honest with you. That's kind of the only thing I could put it down to. But then in qualifying, he looks really strong in most classes. I don't think he had the pace. Maybe he had the pace of TQ, but to be honest, I didn't pay too much attention to him, which sounds quite bad, but at least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, here he's running in third, so he's not doing bad by any means, but I don't know. I felt like because sometimes at these events he's really fast.
Yeah, and he just made it he just made a small mistake there, and then Phend got through.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, it's just like he's always there, but kind of missing the sort of the edge sometimes. But yeah, here Phend, Aiden, and Brock were the three most strong ones, I'd say. I think if Phend hadn't made that mistake, maybe he could have something for Brock, but realistically, Brock was like half a lap ahead at the end, if even more. So he was like way ahead of the rest of the field. Already here, like halfway, or not even halfway through, and he's already a third of a lap ahead of these guys. So he was really strong altogether. So rest of the results for Tool Drive, we have Champlain obviously winning, then Phend, Horn, Evans coming home in fourth, Julian Oliveres, who bumped, finishing fifth, so a good result for him. Brennan Schimmel, the second TLR driver, sixth. Cole Tollard, another TLR guy in seventh. Cavallari all the way down in eighth. We kind of mentioned this before. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, it's not like a terrible result, but at the race like this, he should be there in fourth or fifth, with Evans. But he's not there. So I don't really know, especially now that Brock's winning. It shouldn't be the car by any means. Sontag in ninth and Gavin Vicina in 10th. Yeah, Tool Drive wasn't very exciting. I think the fight for second and third, yeah, that sure was somewhat of an exciting one, but there really wasn't much overtaking or anything. It was mostly that Phend caught Aiden, and then that's kind of how it ended.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much, to be honest. Echo your words there. So I guess truck.
Yeah.
On the truck, or do you want to do four wheel? Let's do truck.
Yeah, we have truck next. I don't know. You was in the main, so I don't know if you actually had a chance to watch a lot of this. But let's take a look. Truck. Yeah. So obviously, this was the class that Brock didn't dominate. So we have Phend and TQ and Aiden. What was it actually more difficult to make 10 minutes with truck than it was with Tool Drive or Full Drive? Because I'd imagine like the weight of the car,
well, 100%.
At least would make it more difficult.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if it was just my car, because I mean my truck was probably the worst out of all my. I mean, it was okay towards the end, but it just felt like the trucks, at least for me, it would just oversteer so easily, no matter how much like grip you tried to put into it. Like you had to kind of drive it on a knife's edge. But then I'll see like these guys here. I think at points they were like their hot lap was like quicker than their two-wheel buggy time. And I'm just like, I don't know how they're getting those things around so fast. And obviously these guys have been racing it for years, but they definitely are harder to drive. Like I feel like for sure compared to a buggy. I was speaking with Paul Wynn, and we were talking about trucks and stuff, and they reckon that because they haven't changed trucks, like the regulations set all the ruling of how long it can be and so on since trucks basically ever started or racing. It's like they reckon the trucks are just too short and they just need to be longer. Like if you kind of like compare everything to like relative, like the size of a truck to a buggy, like a truck should be way longer. So I don't know, maybe if that's something with truck, maybe in the future they should do that, because even on carpet they're pretty hard to drive. Like you can't throw them around. I know obviously that they have a massive body and big tires, and I know that's the point of it though. But I mean, it was just something to think about. That maybe do they just need to be lengthened? Did the chassis need to be lengthened? Maybe they made them easy to drive or something.
Yeah, I think it's kind of become an issue since the grip's gotten higher. Because back in the day, it was the other way around. Trucks were always the easy one to drive, and Tool Drive was the hard one to drive. And these days, I feel like people say it a lot. I've driven truck myself. It's definitely more fun when it's low grip. and it's very easy to maintain around a low grip track. But on high grip, you just kind of have this. It's not as bad as short course, but you just have this kind of excess amount of grip and very, aggressive turn in because of the big tires, and then obviously the risk of grip rolling, which comes from the bodies up high. Now that we actually look at it, Brock doesn't look that bad here in truck, but he kind of makes his way up here into the fight, but then kind of ends up dropping back at the end. Do you think it has something to do with the Schumacher truck versus TLR? Because when I initially looked at the results, I saw okay, so you have Brendan Schimmel, Taylor Sontag, Dakota Phend, all of these TLR guys very near the top in truck. So do you feel there are major differences in the car compared to buggy? Because at the end of the day, most of the car is same to the two-wheel drive buggy, but then you have minor shop geometry differences. Maybe they could have even different hubs. I don't really know specifics of different brand trucks do they have, as it's associated. It doesn't really seem to have. But yeah, do you think that there was sort of a little bit of an edge to TLR in this, or do you think it's kind of just all of these trucks are very similar?
I think it's a mix of a few different things. I mean, because what the first one I was going to say was, the Schumacher truck is based off it might be even the LD1, which is or it might be, they might have updated it maybe to the LD2 spec, but now they're on the LD3. So I was going to say at first, maybe it's that, but then I realized the TLRs, it's literally, as far as I'm aware, it's a 4.0, which I just update, that put all, I don't want to say new stuff, but the 5.0 stuff on. I might be wrong with that, so if someone wants to correct me, let me know. But and then technically the Associated is the car that's the newest, I think, at least in this field. But I don't know. I think truthfully, I don't know how much Brock runs truck. So I just don't know if that's just a lack of knowledge with the car. So Phend has probably driven that truck for at least 5 years now. Well, not only has Brock moved over to Schumacher, even though it was a few years ago. It's at least in the UK, there's not really much development, at least on the truck, at least from the British side. There's not really a need for it. But so maybe that just means Brock is the kind of sole man doing the development on it for the States. And then even then, when else will he race it? I don't know if he runs truck at trackside the week just going on. So I don't know if it's just because I just don't see it as important. Is it even worth it? Because it's only really Masters where you kind of rely on truck to be able to win the whole thing because of how it's done. But I guess anywhere else, if you don't win, let's say you win 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, it's you don't win truck, it's not a big deal. So I almost feel like Brock's performance kind of overshadowed because it was combined. But that's just the event though, and that's just how it's done. But I guess that's kind of that's my analysis on it.
Yeah, in a sense, I think maybe the Masters of Dirt kind of makes truck more important than it in general is for these guys, because I'd imagine it's kind of e-truggy for the not maybe e-truggy, but between e-truggy and truggy for the 8-scale guys, where you kind of just run it for track time. You don't really care that much about results, you just run it for track time. And I think that's kind of what stadium truck in this day and age is, for the 10-scale equivalence of that. But I have to say that I absolutely love the stadium trucks. That class, in my opinion, is sort of a perfect way to, make a different class without changing too much stuff. Short course, I think it could be a class, but I feel like it's just the bodies are so expensive, the tires are maybe a bit more expensive, not that much different compared to stadium truck, but the bodies for sure are more expensive. And then you have this issue of they just really, really difficult to drive on high grip. It's really hard to get them to work on high grip. Where stadium truck, you can get to work on the US carpet, and it is possible to drive them on there. And I think it's just a very versatile vehicle, also very beginner friendly, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's more things common with the tool drive buggy and the stadium truck than there is the shortcuts in the tool drive buggy. And that was kind of one point when you said about like having the stadium trucks longer in wheelbase. That's kind of one thing that I think is to the advantage of the stadium trucks, is the fact that they have the same chassis as tool drive, if I'm not wrong. So you can basically very easily transfer your two-wheel drive buggy into a stadium truck.
Yeah, pretty much. I get you have some good points there, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. Truck results. Let me get them up here. So we have Aiden Horn, Dakota Phend, Brendan Schimmel, Tater Sontag, Brock Champlin, Cavallari. His best result was in truck. So yeah, as I said, 3 TLR guys in top 4. That's kind of okay. Yeah, Horn won it. You know, it's an associated guy, but still 3 TLR guys in top 4. That's kind of where I based my theory that maybe TLR would have something in the truck class. Maybe just, you know, coincidence. But yeah, after Cavallari, it's our boy William Venables. In 8th, it's Colin Leonard. In 9th, it's Justin Evans. And 10th, Mark Reed. Dustin and Mark Reed having some form of issues in the truck main. Dude, you made it into top 7. You know what JQ says, though? He has this theory
Go on.
that if you finish 7th or 21st, it doesn't really in this race, sure, but like he had this theory that if he finished, because his best result at the Euros is 7th, I believe. So finishing between 7th and 21st is like anyone can do that, basically. You know, that was his theory. So if you finish below 7th and above 21st, you're basically just like waste of space, because like you're not going to be able to challenge for the win ever. You're just going to be fighting for being like the last guys in the main who are getting lapped the whole main. That was kind of his theory. And I think I have to say, like, as long as like we raced together with JK Racing back then, and then kind of he was always, when he had a good race, he was like 7th or 8th or something. When it was like a big event, obviously in small events it was higher, but I do have to say that is quite accurate. Like if from 7th to like 20th, 21st, I think that was his range. Like that was the waste of space range. So
I mean, I did get lapped, I think, like once or twice.
Well, okay,
so
but
it was a waste of space in that, to be honest with you.
But you can always say that so did Cavallari. He got lapped as well.
I guess I'll take that.
Yeah. So you wasn't actually. Oh, you fought to the line. You had 5 tenths behind Ryan.
Did I?
Yeah, it says here that you was. Oh no, you are a few laps down.
Oh,
okay, that's the difference.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, I was like, I saw your time. You came in by the line right after him, but you was just a lap down. So that was the difference. Okay. So we have one more class to go. The class you bumped up in. Let's get now the video I was playing in the beginning. So let's get this up now, because I wanna sort of look at all of these as well, because one thing that I think people maybe miss sometimes is, like, when last time on the podcast we talked about how 4-wheel drives drive on the track. I think, like, you have to see it to kind of understand what we're talking about. Here, obviously, it's not carpet or whatever, but from the year we didn't really show you much coverage. But I don't know. I feel like when we look at this, it just looks a bit weird. I don't know if I'm just a four-wheel drive hater or what it is, but it just looks off. Like two-wheel drive looked so smooth. Granted, this was much better race than the two-wheel drive, but yeah, it looks weird. Was it weird though as the drive?
When I was getting used to it, it was a little bit weird, but there was I changed a load with setup and I learned a lot of other things that the Americans were doing. But so like towards the end, I'll be honest, my four-wheel was actually my best car, I feel like, which a lot of guys back home will know, like, it's normally the other way around, like two wheels by strong class. But like, I don't know, I feel like because this is more lower grip, four-wheel was really fun. Like I had a really good time. Like once I got the car really good, like I loved it. Like it actually, if I'd say this, want to do more four-wheel drive. But I mean, I think it's mainly carpet. Wow. I feel like it just gets a bit hectic. So, but like even on Astro, like I did some racing earlier in the year and it was quite fun. Which again, I never thought I'd say. So maybe it's just carpet. It's just where I think it's just a bit nuts. But on this dirt, it was really fun because it wasn't too crazy where you're grip rolling, but then you also wasn't spinning out. It was kind of like, to be honest, a perfect traction, I would say.
Yeah, to be honest, now that like the car is somewhat spread out, people are in rhythm, it does look better than the start. But when I just saw the start, I was kind of like, it's again this. But I do agree that especially when you're running slicks in full drive, it gets much more fun because the front tires are allowed to slide a bit when you go into corners. But when you have that, especially the Fusion or any of the pin tires in full drive and carpet, it's just so aggressive, so wild looking. But I think even here, it looks like these guys are running pretty low ride height. I don't know what you guys were running though.
I think we were running about 17, 16. So it was actually pretty low. Like not compared to carpet, but
yeah, because when you look at this, because when you look at these guys going through like that little dragon back thing on the left hand side, like you can just see the car like bottoming out all the way through it. So it's kind of looks like a plank that you're pushing through it. That's kind of my main pet peeve with four-wheel drive, to be honest. Like the fact that you have to run it so low for it to work properly and not grip roll or whatever. And yeah, like all these guys go like nose high over that thing. I don't know. It's just I can't get over this. But since last time we talked about this, I've been like feeling it even more and more. I feel like something would need to be different for these cars to be like more drivable. I guess like maybe it feels better than it looks, but that's kind of why I like quit four-wheel drive. And well, I quit all 10 scale altogether, but that's kind of why I quit four-wheel drive in the beginning, because it's not that much fun, to be honest. I don't know, maybe I need to race again on dirt or something, because I used to love four-wheel drive back in the day when I went to Euros when they were still hell on dirt. But yeah, these days not so much. But talking about the race again, I think Brock should have probably had four-wheel drive as well. I think realistically he had the four-wheel drive in the bag, just as he did two-wheel drive. But from what I understood, he had traffic. Like he got tangled with a lapped car, dropped down behind a Phend. Then I guess he made a mistake of his own, dropped down behind Horn, and ended up finishing third in the end. But like even if you see here, he just like on a Sunday drive, taken away from the field.
Yeah, like it was really unfortunate because Brock was dying to pull away and I dare say check out. But then I think he had some issues with traffic I think a few times, and like for once it wasn't me this time. But it was by that beach bowl. I think Brennan Schimmel and someone else came together, and then Brock got into them with like a minute or two to go. I think by that point, Phend just got through, and I think then Brock made a small mistake on his side, and that was kind of how it ended. But it's kind of really unfortunate because it kind of wasn't his fault. But I mean, I guess you can just say that's just racing. Sometimes just stuff like that happens, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It feels like 10 scale has a much bigger chance for this to happen because the cars go around so fast, the track's narrow, it's one line, so on, so on. But it does happen in 8 scale as well, especially the longer mains because you have so many lap cars. But I felt kind of bad for him because I felt like he really deserved to win both races here because he looked to be like the number one guy all weekend. Truck was like the only class where he kind of wasn't the number one guy, but both two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, he seemed to be the class of the field. I remember I saw this post by Schumacher. They shared Brock's race report, and I think they commented on it something like, what was it now? Like, some people said that Schumacher cars are not good on dirt. And then like that was
yeah, I saw that comment. It was something like that. It was like who said Schumachers don't work on dirt, or it was Muzzy that said it. But yeah, so I mean, that definitely, like, I think for the Schumacher guys, that puts up a lot more. Like, I think their cars are going to be a lot more better on dirt. Like, I don't know if it's like, I don't actually know if Brock had won a big dirt race since being with Schumacher. I have no idea, but I know I think he won 4-wheel at trackside. I need to double check, but he definitely was up there again. So I don't know if maybe Brock found something that could be good, but then I don't know if that means now do Schumacher need kind of more top guys in America? I mean, I don't know if Cav is. I mean, I don't want to open the book of Cav, but like, I don't know. Like, is the car just starting to get there? I guess because the Schumacher have always kind of been known to not be the best on low grip, but obviously Brock has kind of starting to change that.
Yeah, and there actually I just missed it, but here's actually the section where Brock catches the traffic. Oh, we don't see what happens, but he basically caught someone, got flip over. Now he's still out front. But yeah, here he gets caught in traffic again, makes mistakes, and this lets Dakota through. But yeah, about Schumacher, I think he won 4-wheel drive Raw Nationals on dirt. So he has had. Oh yeah, here we see that where he gets caught up a lot.
Yeah, that's a crash. He just got into the pile.
That's actually really unlucky. Yeah, so it wasn't really even like that he could do.
But there was nowhere for him to go. It was on the line, and it was like as soon as he landed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he won the 4-wheel drive dirt nats. So he has won on dirt before, but I think the sort of weak point has always been 2-wheel drive for him, and for Schumacher in general. Like, Michael was really strong at the Worlds. That was Brock's own mistake there. Yeah, but Michael was really strong at 4-wheel drive at the Worlds. Didn't even make the main in 2-wheel drive. Back at Hoodie Arena, really, Michael never really was a factor in 2-wheel drive. To be honest, really wasn't in 4-wheel drive either, but he's not been like Schumacher's weakness has always been 2-wheel drive on lower. Like, no matter what part of the last 10 years, that's kind of always been the weakness. Obviously, signing Cavalieri and Brock, that's like trying to solve that. Granted, there really isn't much low grip anymore, but dirt still. And trying to kind of solve that issue. with that. I think going into the 2025 Worlds in Sydney, they are most likely gonna introduce something new for tool drive still. But I still feel like other brands are much more prone to do well there, just because of how like the history in the car. Well, there's our man Will, standing right next to Dakota Phend.
Hey.
Yeah, I just feel that although they have like clawed the gap a bit, there's still a way to go for them for the Worlds. This race was a good, but I think even this race it was really high grip. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's hard to say because I haven't done a crate. I don't know. This is like as high grip as it gets for dirt, but it definitely was high grip. But there was still a lot of give to it. It wasn't like you would. I think cars were starting to grip well more just to like after the small straight, but it was quite bumpy there. But I guess for argument's sake, you could say it is quite high grip, to be honest, especially to what we'll have in Sydney, or especially what we had at the last Worlds, 100%.
Yeah, and
but I definitely agree that the Schumacher cars have always, at least the two, will kind of always been a little bit of a weak point on dirt. But I think now like they're really starting to get some headway with that. So it'll be interesting to see if they have anything new for Sydney. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, 90% of the racing Schumacher does is either on carpet or Astro. Like if you look at all of their team drivers and where they're based, and you know what they really do. But I think they really strive to get some of the American market. And if they do strive to do that, they do have to open the window of the setup of the car a bit in that sense, which they have done. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like a thing that you have to keep on going with, because this is where, you know, Associated and TLR, this is where they're created, those cars, you know, this type of surface. So you're going up against cars where this is kind of what they are made to work on, and then carpet and Astro, especially Astro, comes as a second thought. Carpet is these days becoming more and more important, and I think the B7 is very much carpet focused as a design. Obviously, it works really well on dirt as well, but like the design is made for carpet. And I think that's kind of a tough part for 10 scale. You kind of have to design 3 different cars. Not actually 3 different cars, but if you think about how different the surfaces are, you have to approach, especially the setup and the way you do the car, in the very different ways to optimize it for each of these surfaces.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I mean, like the setups that we do that I did to these cars from carpet, even carpet to Astro is quite big, and then even to dirt. I mean, myself, I had my car quite literally. The setup is completely different, but it's weird because they run a hybrid of like some carpet elements, like hub heights and so on, but then obviously like shocks and suspension is completely different. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I guess in a way you would kind of. I almost feel like with how the Worlds have been in the last few years, you almost see like a car just designed for the Worlds because it's normally really low grip. And then you kind of have a normal car like for dirt, which is kind of medium to high. And then you have like an Astro car, which is kind of, and carpet is like kind of just high to ultra high. It almost kind of feels like what you kind of need now. But the Worlds are always super unique. Like even like even when the local guys driving their local tracks, like I'm sure like Sydney, I know like the Mondays go there quite a lot, but then I can imagine for the Worlds it's just going to be completely different. But that's just the same with any bigger race. So
yeah, I have heard that they would be putting either molasses or oil on the surface, that was what some people said from Australia, but like the organizer has kind of very strictly said that they would be using natural dirt that just packed. So I don't really know if those claims are in any way true, but I don't know. It could still change because thinking of how many cars and for how long they're gonna drive on that track, there's bound to be like a proper line developing. Then again, you most likely will have rain at some point of the event, which could change everything again. So it's a whole different thing preparing for an event like that compared to any other current 10 scale race that we have, especially in Europe, but also in America, because they don't race outdoors anymore. And we race outdoors, but it's always Astro. So it's like nobody really has anything to do with that type of surface.
Yeah, I mean the Worlds. I mean that would definitely be interesting. I don't know what I know the weather in Australia is like completely different to what we're kind of used to, at least in like because it'll be kind of September time. So I don't know if it's like their rain season, or I guess for them it's more like ramping up into spring because it's the opposite to what we have.
Yeah,
I
so
think.
it's like a spring for them then. Yeah. Okay.
So there'll be a lot of drama maybe.
Yeah, we went on another tangent. Sorry, we're new at this. But just to wrap the race recap up, we have Phend winning. Oh, is this right? Yeah, Phend winning. No. Yeah. Okay. I was
Yeah,
looking
Phend
at
won it
yeah.
overall.
Yeah, but yeah, Phend won a full drive. Then you have Horn in second, Champlin in third, Evans in fourth, Tollard in fifth, Schimmel sixth, Cavalier seventh, Will in eighth. Here you was 8 seconds behind Cavalier, so not bad actually.
Okay, that's not bad.
You
I
should
crashed a lot less in 4-wheel.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty decent run in 4-wheel. You was like, yeah, it was like a lap to Evans. It's not bad.
Oh, no. I'm guessing still a waste of space in JQ's eyes, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Julian Oliveira in 9th and Tater Sontag, which you said broke, in 10th. Phend wins, but I think Brock really deserved the full drive one. Phend wins also the Masters third format, which calculates all of these 3 classes. And was it now? Yeah, Nate. No, it was Doug who won the stock master title from this race. So yeah, do you have something to add about the results, or should we move on to the next section where we talk about kind of what we can expect going forward from this event?
yeah, I think let's move on to that. I mean, I think overall, like for those top guys, I definitely agree that Brock should have had it, but a bit frustrating. But I'm wondering if because he didn't win truck, even if he won 4-wheel, would have he had the points still? But I guess Horn got it, so maybe Horn won truck, so maybe he would have had a chance. But yeah, let's I think let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
So the next section, Tekno RC Talking Points, is obviously brought to you by Tekno RC. Thanks for their continued support.
Tekno RC. Tekno RC is a championship-winning manufacturer of high-performance A-scale, 10-scale, nitro, and electric RC buggies and trucks. With a worldwide dealer network, USA and Europe-based headquarters, comprehensive warranty program, and global race support, Tekno RC is excellence in RC. View the full lineup of Tekno RC race-proven vehicles by visiting www.teknorc.com.
All right, thank you Tekno RC for sponsoring this podcast, long-time sponsor. So I want to start by talking about the 10-minute finals. We referenced them already there, but from like a driver standpoint, how was it? Because I've never raced a 10-minute final in 10 scale. I remember when I was racing, we always had issues with overheating, so it was really like tough to even run 10 minutes. But did you have to like adjust for it? And did it feel long? Because obviously you're not an 8 scale guy, so you probably never run this long anyway. So like how was it?
To being truthful, it actually wasn't too bad. I think because it's still a relatively short final, it did go fairly quick. But I think it's a bit weird in my scenario because I knew I wasn't going to win, so I feel like I was just driving. To be honest, just like, cool, I made the show, just gonna make the most of it. But I mean, it does feel longer. I mean, like I actually had to go to a bigger battery for the finals, so I had to kind of make some adjustments to that. But I mean, it wasn't really a massive difference. But I liked it because obviously you had more time, and I guess if you made a mistake or something, there is still a chance to make it up. But I guess the flip of the coin is like if you had to lead that race from start to finish, you'd probably hate it because you'd have to do it for 10 minutes instead of 5. But I thought it was good because it opens a lot more opportunities. I mean, I know it was unlucky for Brock, but it meant like Phend like kind of had more of a chance because it was just simply a longer race, so anything could happen. And well, unfortunately for Brock, that was the case. But for Phend, he was probably quite happy about that because if it was a 5-minute race, Brock would have won it. Like that's it. Like job done. But I think like towards the end, like it's harder to keep into a rhythm, I guess. Or if you're trying to hunt, I feel like normally if you're trying to chase someone down, like you have to kind of really do it for max a few minutes. But in the 10-minute finals, I mean, it didn't happen to me, but I can imagine if you were trying to chase someone down for like 8 minutes, it'd be quite difficult. There's just more chance for error. But then I think it goes good both ways. But I liked it. I actually thought it was really fun, to be honest, do it for 10 minutes. But the only worry I find with it is if every race did it for all mains, well, all finals, then does it just make the race days even longer than they are? I mean, Master of Dirt was long enough, like the days wise. So that's the only worry I have with it. But then could you argue, do you just make it for the A mains, A finals that they're
but
just 10 minutes?
But you have single A mains, single finals, right? So instead of having triple A mains, you have just a single A main. So what do you think about that? Do you think, because you have 5 minutes less runtime, sure, but like, do you feel that's better? Because I kind of find this idea interesting because especially in e-buggy, I feel like it's weird that you run for 10 minutes 3 times. It's a lot of running. I don't know. I think like if you start to do longer mains, like I'd like to go to a format in e-buggy where you run, 15 or 20 minutes and you just run it once and that's it. Or then you run twice for 50 minutes, whatever. But you have, less running and for longer time. I think to me at least that feels to make more sense. This was obviously one of the first races I've seen it done recently. Obviously, Race did this for the open class. There's been multiple races in history, but I feel like it's not that common to have this. But I feel like it should be thought about more. What do you think? Like just a single 10-minute main, that would shorten the day up quite a bit, actually. If you think of compared to AAA mains, which they do at the US, for example.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, personally, I kind of like just the triple finals because if you make a mistake in the first leg, then you have 2 more legs to kind of make it to win. I guess it kind of also brings a bit more like at the Worlds when it's like if someone crashes an A1, then there's all like this commotion that happens and everyone's like talking and it's like, oh, like now we're going to A2 and it's kind of like I feel in a way it kind of brings a bit more atmosphere, especially for like a race cycle Worlds. But I guess I feel like going to the 10-minute finals, at least for everything, it would kind of start to feel, I don't say a little like 8 scale, but a little bit because it just means like you only have that one race to make it work, which I guess kind of goes both ways because like then you only have one final to win, but then you also have one final you could to lose everything instead. And so, like, have you seen in some of the worlds where people dominate qualifying and then they go into the final and then just feels like all the whole week's work or whole events with work kind of goes down the drain. But again, that's racing, and that's that I feel like that racing is cutthroat, and that's just how it happens sometimes. But as a 10 skill guy, I kind of like the triple finals just because it brings a bit more atmosphere, like especially for deciding who the winner is. But I think as a driver, 10-minute finals are quite fun because you get more time you just get more time to race, which I think it kind of goes hand in hand. But if I had to choose, I'd probably keep it how it is. But I think that's just me, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of hardly agree with the point you made about the qualifying to a 10-minute final. So especially the way we do it here in Europe, where it's like 5 or even sometimes 6 round of qualifiers, and then you qualify into one 10-minute main. Like if it would be one 10-minute main, it would feel very silly, you know. Like at least in 8 scale, you run a 45-minute main or even a 60-minute main. Like, so there's more running in the final than you have in qualifiers. So I think if you do this, it would be more effective on a club race level for people, because you get a lot of track time. You get the race against cars a lot. Obviously, if you brake, yeah, that's a different thing. But in this day and age, 10 scale cars don't brake that often. So it's not like a major difference to 8 scale in that sense. So I feel like in a club race level, you don't need to like have all that qualifying, because you can then have bump ups. It's much easier to do bump ups when you have single mains. So you just go through the mains and you do bump ups, and you have another class in between, so you can switch your battery and cool the car off or whatever it is. And I think that's kind of one way to improve 10 scale, because it has become, in my opinion, quite stale at some times. But then again, I do agree with the fact that you have more excitement in a AAA main than single A main, because you're gonna have. It's not only that you're gonna have people watching it for the final. You're gonna have all those spaces between the finals that you can like speculate and so on. So I don't know. It's like there is a threshold where, like, is it 30 minutes? Is it 45 minutes? Is it an hour? What is the sort of the time limit where it becomes more exciting to have a single final? Because if I now said, hey, let's go to 2 like 10-minute finals or 3 10-minute finals for 8 scale, nobody would say, oh, that's more exciting, because it just isn't. You know, that one long main, that's the excitement. So they're like,
I feel like it's so long at that point where like anything can happen. Even if you did have a flame out, you kind of still have a chance. I mean, realistically, in most cases you probably don't, but at least it's still something there. Like if you flamed out right after the line, okay, you only lose 10 seconds, maybe, and then after people flame out or whatever. But I feel like because electric, there isn't the same. Electric cars don't, like you said, break that often. I guess that's like you kind of know just. The cars, like, it wouldn't be the same kind of thing. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, I just I'm kind of like seeing where it could lead in the future, because obviously if more rules or the way effort does 10 scale, it's not going to change, because that's very set in stone. It's been for so long. But I feel like formats like this do offer more in some situations, and it's nice to explore something new. For example, for a while in eBuggy, I have felt that a 2 final format would be more exciting, sort of like a moto style format, which we have in motocross, just because of the fact that you don't have like a throwout. So it wouldn't become like a thing of like trying to find like the best final. You wouldn't have these situations where, you know, someone can take someone else out, and it would become more of sort of the essence of what Nitro 8 scale is. And I feel that's why it could be interesting for e-buggy. I don't really know if that would be a solution, but I just personally, I really absolutely loved the short finals that we had on RCGP, where you had two 20-minute finals or 15-minute finals, was it? Where you basically just have one pit stop and that's it. I don't know. I kind of would like to see more variation with the formats, because we have more freedom these days. Back in the day, it was like we go as long as we can, and then we have like one throw out or whatever. But these days, you can do more things. You know, you can extend the time. Like if you wanted to make your 10 scale car last for like 15 minutes, you can make that happen. Like it is possible to run 15 minutes on a 10 scale car these days. Same with 8 scale. You can make 8 scale e-buggy run for 15 minutes. It's just about how do you make that happen. And I think there is some space to be explored. And I'm really happy that we have races like this that try the 10-minute main. And yeah, maybe it's not the thing for all races, but at least here it seemed to work well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it worked. It definitely worked well on Masters of Dirt. And I think with the format they have, I mean, it makes it so it's pretty brutal. So, like in Champion in Brock's scenario, even if he won 4-wheel, and because he didn't win truck, he might have not actually had a chance to win the whole thing. But I mean, it just plays so many elements into it. But then, like with every racing, like if you get taken out or something, you know, that's unfortunately out of your control. So I think it's good. I think it works in some places. I just don't know if I would. I feel like it should be something that IFMAR should do. I guess the other argument you could say is, oh, maybe like make IFMAR finals 10 minutes long. Like maybe because you could argue because it's a Worlds, like it should be like something like that. But then is that just too much? Like is that too much strain on the cars? And I mean, I know it doesn't add much to the time scale, but I mean that's just a thought. Would that be something? Because I know 8 scale Worlds, it feels like it's mainly 8 scale Worlds are only 1 hour long. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if other like 8 scale events are 1 hour long as well. I know Buggyland was for some reason, but I don't know if like other events normally are. They're just 45 minutes as standard.
No, the standard is basically 45 minutes. There are very few events like Nordic Championships. I know they do 60, and Buggyland does 60. The Worlds does 60. I'm not sure if there have been any big events in America who do 60, but it's pretty much always 45. And usually American races keep it to the 45, but there have been some events that do only 30 minutes. Truggy often is also 30 minutes in Nitro, but 45 is kind of the standard. Personally, I think 30 is quite short. 45 is kind of like a doable time, and 60 is like you are going to have failures at the end of it. Like there's going to be some guys who are going to have some failure at the end, because it's getting to that point where the car has been running for so long that it's very likely, be the flame out or whatever. But there's a big difference between like 30, 45, and 60, and I think 45 is kind of like the sweet spot for Nitro racing this day and age. I think going longer than an hour, it wouldn't be like that. That's just too long. Like Formula 1 races, they go for like hour and a half. And that's like very long. I don't think RC could do that. It's too much things can happen, and there's too much like deviation from the pack. There's no safety car or anything, you know, that brings the field together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think. I mean, I don't race Nitro much, so I've actually never done a final longer than 10 minutes. So yeah, I probably agree with you on that. I don't think 8 scale should be any longer for sure. But I was thinking though, like if we did triple finals and 10 scale to be 10 minutes, would that be maybe like for something like Outer Worlds? Would that be quite interesting, or would that just maybe be a bit overkill?
Yeah, I don't see that being a bad idea either. To be honest, it would be at least helpful to the aspect we spoke about before, the stock aspect. Like you want to have a limiting factor to the cars. And I think that could be one that you just extend the time. Because back in the day, 5 minutes was all the cars could do at that speed. Like the batteries were so bad. But these days, it's not like that. So 10 minutes, you have to at least put the big battery on. And for a higher speed track, yeah, maybe you have to turn your speed down or whatever. But it would still at least be somewhat of a limiting factor. Maybe we've kind of missed 10 minutes already, so it would have to be 15. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be interesting at like a sanctioned event, maybe, because you could argue because it's the cream of the creme. Maybe like, okay, maybe they should be longer, but it's just a suggestion. So, but who knows? Maybe that's something to suggest at an AGM or something.
Yeah, I think AGM, like the thing, okay, we had the Airfry AGM last weekend. So, I mean, the thing about the AGM is you could probably make something like that pass if you was lucky, because like the people there's like only a few people actually present at the section meeting or the class meeting. Yeah, section meeting. And then, well, enough about that. I think we'll talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah.
Continuing.
I was laughing because it's already getting to 2 hours, and I bet Keenan's like, "What's going on? Why are these guys still going?"
Yeah. Other talking points of the race. Yeah, Phend overall champion in mod, and then Doug Lariviere winning the stock one. One thing we didn't really discuss apart from the very beginning is that TLR tool drive, I think this was a really good first race for it. If you think about it, sure, Phend is a really good driver and he should be up there. But I think bringing out a brand new car and being competitive straight out the gate, it's not easy. I mean, Associated didn't manage to be this, well, that was pretty good with the first race with V7 where there was, I can't remember what race that was, but that was the one Rivkin broke in the A3.
Oh, was that the Hoosier Hobbyplex?
Yeah, I think it was there.
I'm not sure if it was an INS or it was another race, but it was there.
Yeah, but I think pretty good opening for the two-wheel drive. I mean, it wasn't anything of an official release or anything like this. More so of a first outing with the prototype car. So I don't know. It could be that they don't really even develop it. Like, well, I mean, they're for sure gonna come out with it because it was so.
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty, at least from my eyes, it looked pretty like production ready.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It had new molded parts and stuff on it. It didn't look like it had anything 3D, at least from what I saw, the little I saw from it.
Yeah, I think it's most likely going to be ready pretty soon. So, yeah, I want to see what it actually looks like under the body as well, because there's some interesting aspects to that.
I saw a sneak peek. I had a really quick sneak peek when he was taking the body off.
Yeah, but I think, was there anything sort of different to other cars, or could you see like anything new? Obviously, the rear shock mounting is kind of interesting, but apart from that, I don't think there's actually much to be done. But was there anything interesting?
No, not a whole lot. I mean, not a whole lot really. I mean, I might be speaking absolute crap here, but I have a feeling the battery mounting system's a bit different. Funny enough, like even though people say the Mugen looks like a TLR, it kind of looked more like a Mugen in a way, at least in the center section, which is quite funny because people say Mugen copy TLR or whatever it is. So I felt like it kind of looks like that, which I thought was quite interesting. But I think the front arms were more kind of like a normal gull wing instead of the kind of weird. They kind of had a bit of a kink in it. Their A arms just have before. So at least I hope I'm right, but at least that's what I feel like I remembered. And then the shock towers were kind of. It still had the TLR 5.0 essence in it. Like it didn't look anything, for example, like a B7, but it was kind of like. Well, now I definitely feel like it kind of looked sort of like a Mugen, but obviously different. But yeah, I'll say for its first outing, it looked good. It sounded different. I don't know if that was just maybe they're still ironing out some kinks, but the gearbox sounded a bit funny on it. But that could have been several things.
Yeah. I mean, there could still be some machine parts or whatever that aren't perfect fit. We also talked about this before coming on. That there was some talks that people would be leaving TL at the end of the year. I think this is a very interesting aspect, and we're not talking about like Phend here. We're talking about stock guys, the general team drivers and so on. And it's been kind of a long time coming that people kind of finally quit on the brand. Sure, maybe the timing's not really good because they're thinking of coming out with a new car, but yeah, I guess I'm basing it off of what you told, but it sounds like the ship is sinking somewhat. I don't know if that's too harsh to say, but
yeah, I mean, I spoke to a few guys out there, not about if they were leaving or not, but just like it kind of seems like a lot of people. I don't know. Truthfully, I'm not really sure what TLR are doing because, like you said, it sounds like some people are maybe looking to jump ship, and it has been like that for a while. But it's now like too late. But then I know like Thomas Tran, he left, or I'm not entirely sure what happened there. So I'm not sure what their team organization is like at the moment. And now they have a new car, and there's all these rumors going around. So it's going to be really interesting because I can't imagine TLR would spend all this money to develop a car if they're not willing to change things around with the team. So to be honest, anything could happen at this point. But I mean, the fact they have a new car obviously means that they still want to race, but I don't know with Horizon what they're thinking, if that's going to be a bit of a barrier or if they're kind of willing to allocate more to it. Yeah. And will guys stay or leave? That's going to be a bit. It's definitely going to make it silly season interesting for sure.
Yeah. I was thinking I kind of want to end with talking about your personal experience before we go into the rant. So I think we should talk about kind of the brands because we've been talking about kind of here and there, but specifically based on this percent kind of we do this segment winners and losers. So I think we should move on to that, and then we can end with sort of what it was for a European to come to America. Before my short, it's going to be quite a short rant at the end. But before we do the rant, we're going to have a little bit of an exploration of how it was to be an European in America. But the Winners and Losers segment is brought to you by Sidewinder Fuel. Morgan Fuel has been collaborating with many of the world's top drivers for over 35 years. This has enabled us to test our fuels in many of the most challenging situations and take the development of competition fuels to the next level. The result is a Sidewinder, the market's most powerful racing fuel. This fuel is track tested and proven by national world champions including Ryan Cavalieri, Ryan Mayfield, Greg Degani, Mark Pavidis, Phil Longyan, and many more. These drivers appreciated that Sidewinder is blended perfectly for the high performance needs of competitive racing. Don't let victory slip through your fingers. Purchase Sidewinder today. Thank you for Sidewinder for sponsoring the podcast and this segment. We're going to start off with brands. Definitely a winner, Schumacher. I think this was one of those events where Brock was actually just dominating in America, and it wasn't carpet. So I think that's a clear win for Schumacher, this event.
Yeah, I agree to that, to be honest with you. We already added quite a lot to it, so I'll just say it. I'll give him I definitely think they deserve to be a winner in this case.
Yeah. Also, I'll put TLR in this winner category because of the fact that they brought in a new car. It didn't absolutely suck. Phend won 4-wheel drive. He did well in truck. Phend won the overall. They had a lot of guys at the top. Sontag was good. Not like okay. Sontag was good in qualifying, but not good in the main. But they had guys up there. Well, those are my two winners. Do you have anyone that you could like from brands? Do you think would be a winner in this category?
Not really. I feel like Schumacher and TLR were probably the biggest winners. I mean, it feels like there was only really Schumacher, TLR, X-Ray, and Associated. To be honest with you, I can't really think of another brand unless it's like one big one I'm missing out on.
Yeah. Well, then we can move on to our losers, which is this is kind of by default, but it has to be said that X-Ray really was nowhere to be seen at this event. Like at least in the mod class, I'm not sure it's the stock. I'm not exactly sure what cars these guys run, but in the mod class there was no X-Ray guys to be seen. Chase and Tom skipped the event, so no X-Ray guys at all. So I don't know. I don't know what to say, but just I guess losers by default. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I guess last year they had like Phend, and I'm assuming Tom went, and maybe Chase. So I don't know if that's just by nature, like because I know a lot of people didn't go because of the track last year. I don't know if it's just that or whatever. But yeah, I definitely class that as a losers. So
Yeah.
I'm curious how they're going to build up with Ty now and gone. If they're going to maybe build up the team, does that free more budget for guys to run in the US? I feel like I know Keenan said it, but I feel like they need a new like American on their team to kind of fly the flag. Obviously, Tom and Chase are getting it done pretty damn well, but I feel like maybe they need like a top guy there who has experience. Maybe
they need a guy they can just send to any event that they can trust that he's going to be in the top 3 pretty much. And I think that's kind of what maybe the move of Phend to X-Ray would be. I'm gonna obviously you cannot talk about Associated because you're sponsored by them, so it's probably not the best look for you. But I put Associated as medium because sure, Aiden did well, Dustin did okay, but the team was quite slim at the top. I guess the good thing for Associated was that I guess you could technically put it to winners because like they still had probably the most cars in the main at the end. So maybe a winner, but more of a medium weekend for AE, and that's pretty much only because Ravekin and Davey didn't go. Moving on to the drivers then. Champlin, definitely winner. Horn, in my opinion, you can say he was a winner. Qualifying look pretty like mediocre, but mains he really pulled back and was really strong. And one driver I wanted to pick up was Schimmel. I think he had a weekend that because I believe he's one of those guys who stepped up from stock to mod. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's one of these guys who used to be stock.
Yeah, I think you are right. So he has won the stock championship here before in the past, I believe.
Yeah, so he was kind of up there in terms of pace. He was there in truck for sure. So I think that's a really good result. I don't know if he thinks that way, but I think like the fact that he's competing with these guys is a big step for anyone coming up from stock, that they can actually compete with these guys at least to some extent.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, Schimmel, it looks like he has. I mean, he was rapid in like on lap pace and when he was on it, but it seemed like he had quite a few crashes from the looks of it. So I feel like I don't know if it's just a case of him still getting used to mod or something. But yeah, I feel like he could be up there with time if he was able to kind of iron out the mistakes. But I mean, I know he was throwing some of the hot laps towards the end of the race, like in some of those finals. So he's definitely got pace for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any others who you consider winners? Maybe yeah, from stock. Maybe you put in like Sunderland and maybe even Doug, because he kind of had a good comeback. But I don't know. I don't think there's many more that kind of had a really good weekend here.
Yeah, I feel like the main guys in stock that really had I guess you would say winners would be Nate. And yeah, I guess in the sense you could put Doug in there as well because he did bring it back. I guess Hunter had some light towards the end, but I guess he only really did it in 4-wheel. Not that I'm putting him down at all, but like I guess in a way you could put Hunter as a winner as well because like I still don't know if he's. I know I was speaking to him. I'm sure he told me, but I'll be honest, I drank quite a lot by this point, so I can't actually. But I think he told me he was predominantly stock. If I get this wrong, mate, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Moving on to the losers, Cavalieri. I don't know. I feel like I'm just like tearing on this guy way too much. But I have to say it. Like, how can you go to a race and like, all with all due respect to Will, like you was kind of racing with Cavalieri at this race. If you look at where you two were situated, and this guy is how many time 4-time world champion, something crazy.
Yeah,
it's like he should be better than this. So I think this weekend was a little bit of a blow for him. He has been good in 10 scale. Don't get me wrong, but this weekend I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. Another one, you actually added him, but I have to agree, was Sontag. And I kind of want to say this now because he kind of came out of nowhere, wins the Worlds, and then he's again nowhere. So he makes these mains. He's fast, but I don't know how he won those Worlds, to be honest. Like it sounds harsh, but you just have to think that he just never really showcased to be on that level as these other guys like Champlin and Phend and any of these guys. Even at one or two events, like a sort of a chain of events, there hasn't been like a few good ones that he's put together. So I don't know what's missing from his package that he had at the Worlds. Like, why was it so good at the Worlds? And that kind of baffles me. And this weekend was kind of like an additional one of those weekends where things just didn't go his way. He qualified well, but then in the mains, he just really kind of melted altogether.
I mean, he's still doing better than Hartson, I guess. But in some ways, in some ways, I see where you're coming from. I mean, to be honest, I didn't know who he really was until that Worlds. But so I don't know. I almost feel like, let's say this graph is like his skill level. I know people who are listening to this just through Spotify or whatever won't be able to see this, but imagine like I feel like the graph is like he was kind of like, let's just say, for argument's sake, he's kind of like a 6 out of 10, and in the Worlds obviously went to a 10, and now he's kind of come back down to kind of like maybe a 7.5. But I feel like but is it also, he, don't get me wrong, he won it, it's a fair play to him, but like now it almost feel like he did it once, now it's like it's almost everyone's expecting him to basically win in out every race. Like, so I don't know, like when Rivkin won his Worlds, I don't know, was he straight away winning, or I don't know. I feel like it took him a bit of time to kind of get back onto, I guess, to get to where he is now, where like he's basically almost, well, he was like really dominant. I guess he still is like pretty dominant, especially in 2-wheel and 4-wheel. But I guess just maybe his Taylor just kind of struggling with it a little bit more. Like his driving style looks really aggressive from what I saw, and to be honest, he did break. like in that final, and I think he broke maybe in a qualifier or two, which put him back as well. So could you argue that that could be a bit hit to his confidence? So I mean, it's a weird one with Tater. I mean, at least he's still pace wise, I guess he's up there, but it just feels like, you know, when you're having breakages and stuff, I guess it's putting you down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to take anything away from the World's win. And I think that he is a talented enough driver where he can compete at this level. But I don't know. It's like some drivers are like this, that they just kind of come alive for one race where they overperform, and then they kind of never are able to reach that peak again. There have been many of guys like this. King was one of these guys, I would say, in 8-scale, Cody King, where he won those IFMA Worlds in Thailand. There are a few of these, you know. Hartson was another one you mentioned. That it's very like weird that it happens, but it does happen from time to time. I do still believe that Tater can be sort of a top level driver, but I feel like there's something holding him back a bit. Like, I don't know what, and I'm not gonna even guess what, but there's something like that's kind of not putting together, and that's why, you know, he's not getting another win. You know, it's like that's what's holding him back from getting another win. And yeah, I don't know, because I do believe he is better than Hodgson was. You know, Cody King was really talented, sure, but he fell because of other reasons, not necessarily because he wasn't good enough, but because of, you know, not like non-RC related issues. Let's put it that way. Why he he kind of fell out. But I feel like Tater, he's so young too, that he has time to go and time to improve. Yeah, you mentioned Spencer. Sure, when he won the Worlds, he kind of came out of nowhere. That's a good point. But he still was competitive at that time. He was battling with these top guys at the time, who were Tebow and Cavallari and Mayfield. And he was able to compete with these guys already then. Sure, he wasn't the top guy, but he was able to compete like regularly, and he was consistent. So I'd say like Rivkin was already an established driver when he won the Worlds, and he kind of kept up the same like trajectory. Whereas Tater was like his trajectory was somewhere like he might make the main at the Worlds, but then he won it. And then after that, he's kind of consistently making mains in USA, but that's about it. You know, so the step up at the Worlds was huge for Tater. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too harsh on him, because again, he's very young, so it's not like his career is over or anything. More so that it's kind of beginning. But I feel like he's a very that those sort of phenomena where someone, I'm gonna say, overperforms, because I mean that wasn't expected of him at that time at the World. Like, how does that sort of state happen to someone, and how are they able to access it, and why are they not able to access it consistently? Like, what all things have to click to make that happen? I think it's a very interesting thing in sports in general, because that happens in all sports, not only in RC or anything. So yeah, I don't know. Just an interesting topic to sort of bring up. But I don't know if people have like if they know more about the situation with Tater, or if I'm kind of thinking too much into it or whatever. I don't know. It's to me, it's just interesting how
it is interesting, to be honest.
That
comes to be interesting situation to be in.
Yeah. Again, another tangent. We're good at this. Schmedium driver.
Sorry, Keenan.
Yeah, Schmedium driver from the event. I have to say, Evans. It's like, this is kind of like, I don't want to say him being a Schmedium. He's like a positive Schmedium in a sense. Sure, this event was his best because he broke in one class. Was it not four-wheel drive where he broke? but it's he broken truck. I'm pretty sure. He's kind of that guy who you don't notice, and then you're just like, "Oh, what you doing here?" And he's just randomly in the podium. Like that's the type of guy he is. He's like the guy who signs for Associated, and then like everyone's like, "Okay, he's a 10 scale guy," and then you have like Ryan Cavallari, and you have Spencer Rivkin, and you have all of these top guys running Associated, and then Evans who wins the Reader race. Not the guy you would ever expect to be the one where you have all these kind of like superstar figures that are expected to win. I think Evans has always been a really strong driver in 10 scale, but he drives really calm. He's a very like calm character overall. So he kind of always comes off as a medium, even though he does well. But here, I think also his result was a bit medium. I'd expect him to be more up there. I don't know if you want to comment on this because it's a bit uncomfortable, possibly roasting your pitting mate from the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to roast him. Well, yeah, I don't really want to roast him too much because I got to hand it to him. He helped me a crap ton. But yeah, I mean, it definitely in 4-wheel, it looks like he's been really strong from a team like perspective. Like he's been doing a lot of like development on the 4-wheel, which has been really helping us. So I feel like in 4-wheel did quite well. I think he actually might have qualified second in 4-wheel. Yeah. He did, and then he finished. Yeah, and he finished fourth. I mean, I saw the video. I was watching the video today, and I think all he did was just he just caught a bump on those the whips, I'm going to call it, and that kind of costed him. And then I think two-wheel, I guess just I don't know if he's struggled or whatever. Like he qualified sixth, and he kind of looking at the results, well, to be fair, he finished fourth actually, so he gained 2 spots. So yeah, I guess you could say like I wouldn't say he's like a winner, but I think he's kind of, I guess I don't want to say average, but I guess you could say he was in the show and he was competitive, but yeah. I just don't think he was at the top end of it. Just to be honest with you. Sorry, Dustin.
Yeah. Okay, I think that rounds out our winners and losers. Obviously, there's a bit less aspects of this in the 10 scale, I noticed, than 8 scale. Definitely less brands in play. Pretty much only 4 brands that you could even judge. Tire wise, I do believe there's a few guys who run Proline from this group, but most of these guys are from J Concepts. Electronics wise, I don't really know. Like, isn't it pretty much that the TLR guys run Trinity and then the associated guys run Reedy, and then the rest run whatever?
Yeah, I mean a lot. I mean Dustin and Aiden run Reedy, and then there's a lot of guys running Hobby Wing. I keep thinking that Dakota runs Hobby Wing, but I think he's running Trinity. And then there's a lot of guys running Exalt, but I think that's more sort of maybe stock guys and privateers and so on. But yeah, in terms of brands, yeah, it's pretty like I didn't see a single like Yokomo or Mugen, which I'm surprised how many people are running the Mugen. I feel like I think that could be a really good car, but they just haven't got many people to running it yet. And then that probably like will be a tangent in itself. But
yeah, I feel the Mugen is
like
more...
I do wonder if yeah,
I just feel like the Mugen is more of like a regional thing. Like in some regions there's a lot of Mugens, in some there's none. So it's kind of like if there's a strong Mugen 8 scale presence, then there might be a good 10 scale presence for Mugen as well. So I think that's kind of how it goes. It would be interesting to see more of the Mugen buggies there, because I think it could be a good car too. I don't know. In 10 scale, it seems like the market doesn't accept as many cars as the 8 scale market does, which is yeah, I don't know. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Perhaps it could be a good thing to some extent. Because we always complain about too many cars and the 8 scale market. But yeah, I think, we're done with winners and losers. We should move on to talking about the experience of a European in America. Okay, this was the juicy bit. I kind of wanted to hear from you because I've been to America. What is it now? 3 races and the Worlds. And it definitely is a different experience. But at 8 scale is, I'd say, much more similar to Europe than 10 scale. Because you don't have to, the surface it's dirt, like dirt's dirt, you can't do much different than that. But from going from carpet to indoor manicured dirt, that is something. And I see you use some descriptive language about the tire prep. So should we just talk about start with tire prep? Because I feel like that is I guess the Americans don't really they don't see this as an issue maybe, but for me this would be absolutely crazy. So just I want to hear how it was.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, before I was going to the event, I was trying to message a lot of people and try and figure out, what the hell do I do? Yeah, a lot of people helped and gave me, they really pointed out direction, but there was also like a lot of people that kind of just gave me vague answers, which I was quite surprised about. But oh well, that doesn't matter really much. But yeah, it just felt like from my side, obviously I was going there for an experience and just to enjoy it. I wasn't really focused on results, but obviously, like all of us, I still obviously wanted to go there and do well because I feel like I'm kind of okay at this stuff, this racing stuff. So I wanted to still obviously do the best I could, but it felt like, I tried a bunch of, there was 2 tires I kind of tried, which was the J Concepts one, which worked really well, and I also tried the Pro lines. So, but for each tire, you had to do different things. It felt like the J Concepts was kind of easy to get set up with. From what I understood, you just kind of just sourced it and just drove it, and you just break it in by running it. But then, like the Pro line, Aiden he helped me how to do it. But you'd have to heat cycle them. You'd have to put like a liquid wrench on it, and then put it in heat tire warmers, and do that X amount of times. And then you have to use this certain sauce, and each tire has a different sauce. So it's I think by the end of it, me and my buddy, which I haven't had a shout out yet, down as my buddy from the UK, is just to DC. So he did all the driving down to South Carolina, and he had a good try, and he did pretty well in open as well. So shout out to him. But I think by the end of it, we had 4 different sauces that we just had in our bag, because one would work for X amount, would work in this condition, or you'd use it for this tire, or you'd use it for that. And then I think it was all just it felt like just the whole time I was there, I was just having to learn everything, just to get quick. Because at the beginning, I felt like a beginner going around. So because I was kind of, well, not really that matters, but people probably looking at me and be like, oh, who the hell is this guy? But then luckily towards the end, once I kind of got the hang of it, it was okay. But yeah, it just feels like there's a million different ways to get grip in the tire. I did everything from tire sourcing, heating them, and burning sauce. When you get the drill and you put sauce on a rag and you heat it up until it literally smoke. I did that. So I feel like everything that's humanly possible to do to a tire, I feel like I experienced as a European, literally everything. So, but it was interesting. A tire wear was pretty good, which is kind of, it was nice not having to do a set a run like you would do in Europe. But
yeah,
I still went through a few sets, but it wasn't as bad as that. So yeah, tires was it's dark magic had to learn. But like once now I feel like if I went back, I'd feel like I'd be better. But obviously that's for the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never liked the whole tire game. I feel like even in A scale, it's become crazy. People punching holes to the foams, people cutting parts of the tires off, cutting pins. That's really like become a common thing even in 8 scale. It's crazy how much people have to work on the tires these days. I don't know. I just absolutely hate that. Like, just put the things on, and like that's it. Like, I know. Like when I raced H scale a lot abroad, and everywhere is open tire. It is interesting because you can test things and you can like find things that work with a tire. Do you have to break them in and so on? But when you have to start sourcing and smoothing and making them smoke with a towel, I think that's when the things go too far. I don't know.
But like the thing that gets to me is like, how did someone one day just think, fuck, like well, so screw it, I'm gonna try this and see if it works, and then it works. That's just like, that was like me and my buddy were joking about it. Like, who even thinks to do this stuff? And I mean, it's kind of hard because like, yeah, it is a lot. I'm going to be honest, and it is a bit of a pain, especially if you're like, I've been in the sport for years, and even it was something new for me to learn and experience. But then driving the car, it's like, okay, like it actually feels really good. So like, I get it, but it's just like a massive pain. It just kind of feels like almost like touring car a little bit with getting tires set up. But I think just ultimately being realistic, would you rather have more grip? Probably. So that's probably what you're going to do.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not only tires because the tracks are very different. So we talk a little bit about setup, but I feel like I have not driven. I've driven like one pack at OCRC because that's my 10 scale experience in America. But from that kind of how low thread tire with indoor dirt, or even slick tire and indoor dirt, like how they work. Obviously, I've driven on like smooth concrete floors and like grip with some substance. So it's similar to that, but I feel like the difference between like dirt in general and running like pin tires and dirt especially, and like that low like bar tire with like a very packed smooth surface is the fact that with a pin you can kind of lean the car over and accelerate and keep the speed up, and you can move the car over and force the car over. Whereas with a slick or a thread tire, or I mean like a bar tire, you kind of forced to either turn or accelerate. You can't really do both at the same time. I don't know if it was the case here, because obviously the grip's probably a lot higher than it was at somewhere like OCRC. But I feel like the tire doesn't allow you to like load the car in both directions at the same time. So you kind of have to be really careful accelerating out of the corners until you're straight, where you can really accelerate hard. The tire generates grip. And it's like the side bite's good unless you force it too much, or you like brake too hard and it rolls over or something. And that I feel like is the biggest difference for me, for bar tires in general. And then, that experience from OCRC combined with like different experience on low grip concrete surfaces, on like honeycombs or whatever. But how was it here? Because I've obviously never raced on a grip like this. So how was it here?
I mean, the grip here was actually pretty good. Like, obviously the track was pretty fresh when no one had driven on it, so it was pretty low grip at the beginning. But I think by the time we got into qualifying, the track like really gripped up. I mean, for the UK guys, I guess the best way to describe it would be it is kind of like workshop, but there was kind of more grip, but it was easier to drive. Like I feel like, of course, like being on the line was crucial, but I feel like it wasn't like if you the second you went off the line, you were like kind of in the like you were like doing donuts. While like at workshop, that's kind of what it's like. So it was kind of, but I thought it was really it was easy to drive on. It was a good surface. I think it was kind of probably the best grip you could ask for because it wasn't too crazy where you're grip rolling. It wasn't too loose where you're spinning out. Like you can make all the jumps pretty easily. So, but yeah, I kind of agree with you with the tires. I mean, I feel like with the slicks, because it's just a slick, you could push them quite hard. But to be honest, I've only done I think 2 race meetings with like pin tires, so I can't comment too much on like how if I could push can't remember if I even pushed hard with a pin tire or not, but no, I honestly I really liked it. Like as a European, like once I got to grips with it, I thought it was probably some of the funnest racing I've ever done. So
yeah, I think
it's a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing I kind of miss from like 10 scale, because here in Finland we used to run on concrete floor, which basically, if you know concrete, it's basically like hard.
Yeah, I've seen the videos from Eunice videos.
Yeah, so it's basically just like really, really hard packed dirt, where you can make it grippy if you use a lot of like you can use any type of like additive or something on the floor, but we just used to use like some natural like detergent because it was cheap and it actually provided quite of a stable grip. It wasn't too high, it wasn't too low, and it was very like stable across the track.
Detergent, like
yeah, I have no idea what you would call it in English. But it's basically you use it as a soap. Yeah, I tried to like look for a translation of it, but it's basically like a natural.
It's like a spray, or
no, it comes in a bottle, and you mix it with water and then you spray it around the house and you clean the tables with it. But it's like natural.
Oh, like a house cleaner kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But it's so I don't really know what would be the equivalent of it, but either way, we used kind of that on the floors, and this would kind of generate a layer with the concrete and on the surface where the rubber would then stick. And to be honest, like that surface where the car slides just a bit, but you still have a lot of drive. You can slide the car around, and it's slippery like dirt, but it's like still not like outdoor dirt where you have roost and everything, and you still run low tires like Schumacher tires, so it's the grip is still less forgiving in a sense than outdoor, where you can just have a ballooning tire and you can bring it back from like either side, like if you go too wide or whatever. And this type of surface, and the fact that you can run cars side by side, you can slide it into a corner for an overtake attempt, like all of these factors, that's kind of the thing that I wish we had more of in Europe, because carpet doesn't really offer you that much. I know in America it's kind of changed too, because the grip has gone significantly up from what it used to be in indoor tracks. But still, that kind of surface offers that more. It's more the driving on the track, I feel, is more fun, because you can slide the car around, you can move the car, and you can make a mistake where you kind of lose the rear end or something. But in carpet, you don't lose the rear end. Like that's just like it just doesn't happen. So it's basically like a very different way of driving, where you try to optimize the grip. Whereas in carpet, you're kind of just trying to optimize the line and the speed you're going. You're going to go as fast as you can. So it's a different way of driving. And especially when you're racing other cars, I feel like that is something I think a lot of countries in Europe have missed in 10 scale. I guess workshop would be similar to that, but it is, from what I heard from Becca and Jona, it is very different to what we have in Finland, where, because from what I understood, you're not able to really slide the car and power on at the same time at the workshop. So it's like too slippery for that. I don't know.
Yeah, that works up. It feels like you kind of have to square up a bit more before you get on power. At least I haven't been there in maybe 2 years, but that's at least what it felt like. Like if you go on I almost feel like if you're doing a 180 and then you're about to go into a jump, like you can like get on the power really aggressive because you'd probably like spin out. But I think from what I understand, most of the guys run pretty like aggressive speedo settings. Like it's kind of like a hybrid between like AstroTurf and I guess you could say dirt. But obviously, learning everything I did from America, we actually have a big race in January. It's good. It's the British Masters, I think it is. It's like a invitational race as well with an open class, and I have a feeling Yuna might be coming. I'm not sure, but basically, what I was trying to say, like maybe running a dirt setup there is something we're still like curious. Would that maybe work? Like, could that be an advantage, or would it just be too different?
Yeah. I don't know. We've gone on for 2 hours 50 minutes. Do you have something to add? Something interesting on your Masters Dirt experience? Do you think you're going back there, or any American race for that matter, anytime soon?
Oh yeah, I 100% I want to go back. I mean, my plan is definitely to go to another race within the next 12 months. I just don't know what yet. So
yeah,
but we also beat the Americans at beer pong, which I feel like is another achievement.
Yeah,
so
you
Brent, if Brent's listening to this, cheers for honouring our bet. So, but yeah, no. But other than, I think in a nutshell, it was a great experience. Like I feel like from a European side, there was a lot to learn, but towards the end, I think it got good. And also being British in America with an accent, like, got a lot of attention. So
yeah,
which is quite, well, I guess even for the ladies, it's quite nice. So my girlfriend both like me saying that. So I hope she doesn't listen to this. But yeah, no, it was an awesome experience. But it was just so much to learn, I guess. So, but awesome trip from my side.
Yeah. Okay. We've been talking about Masters Dirt, so let's have something else for the end. Keenan and we don't really do this anymore that much, but this is kind of the segment where it's forbidden to have a sponsor. So we have a company that doesn't exist anymore. So thank you for the sponsor for allowing us to do this segment at the rant.
We are now at that point of the show where you should fasten those seatbelts and put your big boy pants on. Whoa. Things are about to get serious. It's time for the JQ Racing Rant.
All right. I have to have a little bit of a rant about this because, as I said before, my pet peeve is when people don't understand my point, and I have to hammer it in sometimes.
Let's run with Max.
Let me play you guys a clip from the last podcast, which gathered quite a bit of attention on the interwebs, as the kids say. So let's take a look.
I don't know if I'm exactly
let me
agreeing with you.
Let me finish. The issue with why Red One was boring was not because of the manicured surface or like high grip or anything like that. That's not why it was boring. It was boring because there was absolutely no place in the track where you could overtake. There was absolutely no place in the track where you could kind of like take a different line than the car following you. And the reason why that is boring is because it's a competition of who can do the same thing but better. And then if you start out in the main and you're starting in the somewhat correct order, all those people will be doing that same lap from the start of the main to the end of the main in the same way. And if you start in the correct order, they will obviously finish in a very similar order. And that's what happened at the Worlds. Only Canas sort of switch positions at the top. And that's because there's only one option. There's nothing you can do in the main. Like, let's say, there's one line, so there will no be like a dusty section of the track. There's not like, okay, my tires wear out a bit, I have to take this differently or this section differently. Montpellier, for example, we all remember how Ongara just came charging through at the end of the race. That was one of the most exciting races ever I've seen. 3 cars fighting for the win at the end. That was completely flat, completely manicured, no bumps whatsoever. Yes, it wasn't extremely high grip, but it was still exciting. Cars passed each other. The issue is not the grip. The issue is not, technicality or sideways track. There's more aspects to it. And the aspects are that, you cannot take...
So, at
like
the end there, I would have given my sort of few ideas that people who listen to the show will know about. There was a few comments about this, and I don't know. I think like you have a very 10 scale point of view of this. Obviously, I don't know how it works in 10 scale. Like, do you guys argue about should Astro have bumps?
I think realistically we probably complain about it too much, but then when it's flat, like we have the UK guys will know this, but we used to have this. Well, it's still a track, but it used to be a national track we used to go to every year, and it was called Telford, and it was pretty bumpy and like it was okay grip, but it could be pretty low at times. But it didn't have any. I don't know. I think it did have sand in the track, but then recently they rebuilt the whole track. They put new Astro down, and they made it really flat, which all of us sounded like, oh, this is going to be great. But I haven't been there since, so and I also don't want to bash on a track because they do good stuff. But now it's like it's flat and it just doesn't have the same characteristics. So, I definitely feel like in some ways, I guess in a way, based on what I'm saying, like I feel like they should have some bumps in there because when it's just flat, you expect carpet to be flat because that's kind of just how it is. But then Astro, I guess, or any kind of outdoor racing, I guess you should kind of expect it. Like it should be some bumps in there, I guess, in a sense, to make it feel like it's outdoors. So it's something I feel like as a racer, when we're trying to find setups, we complain about it, but then us racers being racers, and when it's too flat, it's like, oh, this is boring or whatever. So I feel like whatever you do, at least in 10 scale, you just not. I don't know if you're going to please anyone that easily or not.
Yeah, because in the 8 scale side of things, it's kind of this idea of rough is exciting. Like you need everything to be rough, and you need like bumps, and the track needs to be blown out to be fun. Like if it's not blown out, it's not real off-road. Like at this point, it's not even about jumps. Like I remember there was this point where people complained about the Europeans not having big enough jumps, and because they didn't have jumps, it's not real off-road. Well, now they have jumps, but the tracks are too smooth. So now the argument is that the tracks are smooth and manicured, and that's why it's not real off-road, and that's why it's boring. But really, like, okay, here's the sort of synopsis of no matter what racing class. So some people brought up motocross, that motocross is much more fun when the track blows out because people take lines. There's way less overtakes in motocross than there is in supercross. Supercross has much more fighting with other drivers, and that's not because there's like one line that's not because there's so much technicality on the track in terms of bumps. It's because there are corners which allow you to do the overtaking, as in rhythm sections where you can make up differences, and then a 180 after it with a berm. If it was just a 180 without the berm, that wouldn't be possible. And don't like twist that into we need berms in RC. Sure, that could be one way to do it, but it's not like the way to do it, in my opinion. Now, when you compare, I'm going to use motocross and supercross here as an example. When you compare supercross tracks, why do they have so much more like side-by-side racing? It doesn't make a difference. Like if the track's more blown out, you're gonna have less side-by-side racing. Like that, if you look at the races, when the track's smooth, you're gonna have more racing because there's more lines to choose from. And that's kind of how Supercross works. That's how they create them. When you have only 90-degree corners, we all know this. Ricky Carmichael says it on the broadcast all the time. When you have 90-degree corners, you're not gonna have overtaking because it's impossible to overtake into those. When you have corners and sections that hold a lot of speed, it's really hard to overtake into those unless there's something you can make up a lot of time in, or it kills the speed midway, which is like, we can dismiss that from this conversation now. Now we move outdoors to AMA Supercross. You have a lot of lines that you can take on these tracks, like endless jump combinations, because pretty much every single jump is some form of tabletop. Track changes between like days and races and so on. And you have like a wide selection of lines. The track's not that blown out because they kind of repeatedly repair it. And then you move over to the GPs, MXGPs. These are the tracks that are, in general, very narrow, in general, more blown out than American tracks, and also, in general, more technical due to those first two steps. So you have more blown out tracks with maybe higher speeds at times, maybe not higher speeds sometimes, but more technicality and less line choices. And naturally, the end result is that AMA motocross has more overtaking because of these things. And the key thing about this is not that is something more blown out, less blown out, is it real off-road, is it not off-road? It comes down to one factor, and that factor is line choice. Now, obviously we race on four wheels, so you cannot use the same rules to how overtaking happens to motocross to RC. So we can look at, for example, F1. If you look at these tracks where the most of the overtaking happens, the corners are always made in a way where you can either outbrake the car in front of you or choose a different line and go faster than the car in front of you and then undercut him into the next corner. And that's pretty much the only two ways to overtake in F1. Let's forget about the DRS in this one. So braking in RC, you can't make passes, like you can't outbrake someone. Like that's just how it is. So the only way you're left with then is to choose a different line and go by them by undercutting them on the next corner. Additionally, obviously we have the possibility of doing this with jumps. So you can take a faster line through a jump and make the pass. Now, sure, I'll say this. The less grip you have, the more you increase the possibility of outbraking someone or undercutting someone. And that is, in my opinion, that's why it's easier to make a layout on low grip that you can pass on. But the layout is still the factor that determines if there's an overtaking place or not. You can make a layout on low grip that you cannot overtake on. You know, I've driven on those. I know how it is. And you do that by not allowing you like overcut or undercut the car into the next corner. And that's why I talk about the corners closing in, or the fact that you have only 90-degree corners. So there's no way of you aligning yourself differently with the car in front. Obviously in RC, if you do, let's say, an off camber or something like this, a lot of these times you have to follow the car in front, which is a disadvantage for the car following. So instead of saying off-road tracks are boring for racing, or like manicure tracks are boring for racing, and the only choice is to move to really blown out tracks. No, that's not it. Because if you have a blown out track that has one line, you're not going to solve anything. Like, that's not going to solve anything. The only factor I can agree with is grip, and reducing grip. That will give you more overtaking, like as a default. But a low grip doesn't give you the possibility of having overtaking options. And that's something I want people to understand, because until people understand this point, we will have tracks designed the way they are and not thought of differently. When you have higher grip, when you have a smooth surface, you have to pay much more attention to where you put those line choices in. For when the track gets rough, you cannot really choose what lines people take, because you don't know where the bumps will form. So it's up to luck that if it's raceable or not. But I guarantee you, it's a hell of a lot more difficult to race other cars when it's bumpy. Because your car is going all over the place, the car next to you is going all over the place, racing side by side. And you can look at any race from DNC and you see the same thing. People just fucking run into each other. It's just stupid. Okay? I'm not saying DNC is stupid, by the way. I'm saying the racing there is stupid. You can look at the e-buggy main from last time out. Everybody's just taking out each other. It's a carnage. Because people are just trying it to make around the track. Okay. So it's not good for racing. And we have established that the two parameters that are changing good for racing is grip and the amount of grip. And the second one is the layout. And I think at the end of the day, the one factor that can determine if you can race on a track or not against other cars is the layout. Because that's the only thing that will stay true in either low grip or high grip or even bumpy or smooth scenarios. And that's why instead of complaining about grip and complaining about bumpiness of tracks, we should consider the layout of the track and how we establish the layout to have better racing for other cars. And to end this point, the argument I also sort of read between the lines of some of these people is that driving around the track alone should be challenging, because that's the point of having a racing RC, for it to be challenging. And that was the point I was like reading between the lines of these people. Like, RC needs to be challenging for it to be fun. If it's too easy, it's too boring. Okay, let's make it challenging by introducing other fucking cars on the track. It's supposed to be challenging because you're trying to beat other people on that track. It's not supposed to be challenging to drive alone around the track, not racing anyone else. Like, this mentality to me is bizarre, that the challenge is supposed to be the track and not the other people. Like, the point of a race is to race against the other people on the track, not against the track itself. And I agree, technicality is an aspect that adds excitement, adds possibility of people making mistakes, or adds the possibility of someone catching up. So if you add technicality to a track, someone can take more risks and catch up. But the technicality that is added needs to be something that is not totally random. Like, it's not technical to introduce a section that's totally blown out, because it's a random generator. Like, that's not something we want. We want people to battle against each other, and the who's faster, who's better at racecraft and so on wins. And I believe you can do that by having rougher tracks like you have at DNC, and you can do that at smoother tracks like you have in Europe, in Radovan, in Sachile, and so on. But the thing is that the people who build the tracks and the people who direct the way tracks are built, which is us as in the hobbyists in general and podcast idiot pundits like me, we have to acknowledge that the track choices have to be different. You cannot make the same track for all conditions, and the technicality you do has to be specific to the conditions you have. If you have low grip, having like big jumps after 180s, like that's not really fun, is it? On low grip, the technicality is made by off cambers, by hip jumps, places where you have to hold the edge of the grip. On high grip, technicality has to be made by rhythm in jumps and making connections between jumps. And on a bumpy track, the bumps are the technicality. You don't need much else because the bumps are the technical aspect of the track. And I want to reiterate this point. And I think it could be a whole nother segment as well. But I think one thing about why people think that the track needs to be challenging, and the fact that people complain about race culture, is at the end like the same. It's connected. People think that you're supposed to go on a track and race against the track yourself, and the challenge is not actually the other cars on the track. And I think that mentality itself is the reason why we have lackluster racing, especially in America, considering how people talk about it. Sure, you can say anything about referees and so on, but I think like that mentality is tied into the idea too. And I see this in Europe as well. Those people who like want technical tracks and so on, they don't really get racing. Like being side by side another car, giving space, pushing them a bit out, or like making it tight for them in a racing scenario. They just think that you're racing as a track and then the other car makes mistakes and you go by. And I really like to shake this mentality away, because I think the challenge is the other cars on track. That's the challenge. The track shouldn't be the challenge to go around it. Sure, it has to have something to separate, the weak from the strong. But the goal is not to be like uber technical. Like Mayfield said this, that when you hit a line on one of these really blown out tracks, it feels good. So when you actually make it through a section well, that's the pleasure you get. In my opinion, that's not. In my opinion, the pleasure you should be getting is when you make a good overtake from a rival, you catch your rival or you overtake them, or you race wheel to wheel with your rival. In my opinion, that's the essence of racing. And that's what we want in all motorsports, but also in RC. That was my rant today. Very sporadic, but I don't know. Do you have anything?
There we go. If you want me to be 100% honest, you had me lost within like a minute.
I know, it was very...
I feel like...
it was quite chaotic, but like, I don't know. I'm just like annoyed when people don't understand this. It's not about is it bumpy or smooth or astro or carpet. It's about the layout. That's the determining factor. The grip has an effect, but it's like a multiplier. If you think of mathematical formulas, you have a multiplier and then you have the formula itself. The layout is the formula itself. Yeah,
I do
don't
agree
know.
with a lot of what you said. I mean, when you started talking about 90-degree corners, I actually started thinking in my head, like, have I ever overtaken someone on a 90-degree corner? And I actually had to think about it. And like, in my head, I couldn't really, at least like a dead, well, like someone's on 90 degree. It makes sense, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So
and
I'll
I
actually
think
give you that one.
yeah, I think there's we need to really start thinking about this too, because like we give a lot of credit to these track builders on how the tracks look and how it feels to drive, but we also need to start looking at like what makes for good racing and understanding what makes for good racing. We have this privileged position in RC where we can make a new track for every single event. Full scale doesn't have that privilege, so they have to either create something new with a good theory behind it, or they have to make something old work. But we have the privilege of actually understanding what makes for fun layouts and what features makes for good overtaking, and using that to advantage. And in Europe, it in my opinion, it's already become a problem because I love Miguelo's tracks. They are amazing to drive when you're alone, but you just can't overtake on them. It's not made for overtaking, And even like granted, I think this track Lucas did at Beach RC looked great. It probably was amazing to drive on, but there pretty much was maybe one or two possible overtaking positions, and even those were not like real ones. And I'm talking about the two 180s in the front. I think we need to look at that side of RC more. I absolutely love going side by side with someone, but I think the track design and the way we practice and the way we do qualifying, it leads us to a point where we just race against the clock, no matter if it's the main or qualifiers. And at the end of the day, like more than half of the event, like 70% of any event is racing against the clock anyway. Whereas in real, like full scale, it is not like that. More like it's the essence of the sport is to race against others. I don't know. I just feel like it has to be said. You have anything to rant on? No?
No, nothing to rant on.
Yeah.
On my side, at least for now. I'm sure I'll have something for the next episode.
Keenan always says to me that if he didn't stop me, I'd go forever. And I have to say he might be right. Because we went on for 3 hours.
Yeah, I feel like I should have. I don't know. I feel like I should have been Keenan at this point. Or if we continue to make our little 10 scale episodes, maybe I'll have to think of whatever. I don't know what Lefty says to you. I'll have to see if he has a catchphrase to get you to stop.
Yeah, we need to look at that. Yeah, I have to say it feels weird Keenan not being here, but at least I got to say everything I wanted without being watermelon seeded or anything. I probably droned on a lot. But yeah, and to be honest, like rants are supposed to be like you have to find the sense in them. That's kind of the essence of these things. I don't know. I think we've gone on too long, which is just ended. Touring car worlds this weekend. AMS this weekend. Well, probably when we release this, they've actually passed already. I don't really know when we're gonna release it. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, not really. I guess just more so just a thanks to everyone that helped me, I guess, in the States, and also just thanks to Brent for having us out. He really took care of us, and he put a really good show on. So I guess from my side, that's should just say whether they ever listen to this or not. Like just a thanks to those guys. But yeah, it has been weird not having Keenan here.
Yeah.
So I guess my second podcast part of the team. So we'll see. But I don't think it's actually been too bad. To be fair, I actually think it's been all right. We've said quite a lot.
Yeah, it's not been bad. I do think Keenan brings this weird, like energetic thing to the podcast. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's his hype and like the way he breathes or something. But
well, he just loves to stir stuff, doesn't he? I feel he's like the devil. Yeah, you have in your left shoulder. Like, it's kind of the best way I could describe it. So
yeah, okay,
just gone full geek mode into everything.
Yeah, we've gone on for 3 hours, 20 minutes. Thank you to our sponsors. Again, Invisible Speed, High Tech RC, Corsetech USA, Hot Race Tires, Sidewinder Fuel, Mayako, Tekno RC, Beach RC, Stacked RC, Racecraft USA, Clinic RC, and Donathan RC. Thanks to the NNRC drivers. Shout out to all of them. Ronapog, Patty Hackberg, Maddie G, Becca and Yona, and Mason Fuller. And shout out to our affiliates, RC Box Club, Co-RC, Elite RC Production, Ford RC Championships, RC Body Armor, House of RC, and 36 Mood. I don't know. We have to check the viewer retention on this one. If it's good or bad. And leave reviews in the comments. If they are mean, I won't read them. But if they're nice, I will take screenshots and put on my wall. So rate us, subscribe, hit the bell. What else can you do on YouTube? If you're listening to some audio apps, rate the show. I don't know if this is an iTunes anymore or what's the podcast, Apple Podcast, whatever it is. Rate the show, comment, or leave a review. That's what they say. I should search for the outro because this is the point Keenan always messes up. I think 3 hours is too much. I don't know what you think, but I think 3 hours is too much. We
went overboard. I actually listen to these podcasts as well, just whatever. But it's just more like if I'm driving to a race, it's good. But 3 hours, yeah. I mean, we went to town on this one for sure.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. I think 3 hours for one race is quite a lot, but I feel like, the first tangent we took on stock racing being for 30 minutes, that was kind of like the beginning of the end for us.
Yeah, people probably tuned out by that point, like, oh, here we go. But it actually wasn't that, because I went in a circle and basically went back on my word. So
yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. I don't know how Keenan ends these. He's just kind of ends these. Recently, also, I've kind of have to leave early because I had my girlfriend looking at me meanly, but I guess she went to sleep already, so she's not there. Yeah, I don't know. I hope AMS is fun. Oh yeah, let's do picks for Touring Car Worlds just for the sake of it. Who's gonna win? I'm gonna go for Orlowski, Coelho, Hagberg.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're silly not to put Orlowski and Bruno into the mix. But I feel like maybe Reinhard could have a chance. He was quite quick at the ETS.
Yeah, but, he won the Euros this year too.
I'm gonna say that's my top three. That's also nothing crazy.
Okay. But Orlowski over Coelho for the championship?
I think so. Okay. I mean, I heard the X-Ray guys are doing some new stuff with the touring car, but who knows? I mean, this is a world, so I'm sure everyone's going to be trying stuff out.
Yeah. All right. Shout out to my friend the Ferret, who has an altar for Mark Reinhardt, and blessed be his soul if Reinhardt doesn't make the podium, because he's going to have to destruct that altar and admit his defeat. Because I told him Reinhardt is it's like Cavalieri, at this point. He had his one last moment at the Euros, but man's still up for this. No, I'm joking. I think Reinhardt is going to be good, but we made a bet that he's not going to make the podium. He has to destroy the altar. Good luck to anyone going to a race. And
Good luck.
go watch Will's vlog. We forgot to mention that. Go watch Will's vlog from the it's what's it called? William Venables. That's your channel.
Yeah, I'm still debating if I should call it something else. I mean, a lot of people know me as Briefcase. So I was actually tempted to call it like packing Briefcase RC or packing the briefcase, because I want to make more vlogs kind of like this. So I got a few big races coming up. But yeah, anyone that wants to see like a subpar vlog, it's okay. It's not too bad, I promise. Like find my video on YouTube. It's been shared all over Facebook, but it's just search my name, William Venables, and yeah, you'll see it. Please sub and subscribe and let me know what you think.
Yeah,
that'll be ace. And then maybe I'll bring some more videos out.
Yeah. Okay. I think we remembered everything. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to the supporters. So thanks to the patrons. That's what I forgot about. The patrons. Yeah, the patrons has been getting some love recently with some early access shows. Thanks to each one of you. You pay Keenan's electricity bill. You know, without him, you know, he would have to skimp on some food. I mean, I know he's a big guy, but like, man's gotta eat. So like, please, you know. So thanks to you guys, the patrons of the show. But yeah, we just gotta end it here. Will and Max.
Yeah, right. This is us signing out. So
see you next time.
See you in a bit, Max. See you in a bit.